multiplayer experience. The races are great, obviously split by rankings, so you're always competing against people of a similar skill level. I did give it a good go on a couple of Traxion streams as well as off stream, and I had a blast. Some amazing battles going on, but of course I wasn't up against the absolute best that RaceRoom has to offer. People that have been preparing for this race for days, and I was humbled anyway, regardless of what split I was in. But it's a really good system, and this is going to be a big test for it, of course, the first special event. But hopefully everything goes well. And I mean, 2 hours, Lewis, around Interlagos with multi-class racing. It's going to be a test not only for the system, but also for the drivers, because multi-class racing around here, when there's, you know, the first ever special event win at stake in this particular era of RaceRoom, it's a big deal for these drivers.
Yeah, certainly. So these special events, we've done a fair few in the world of RaceRoom over the years, whether it's the 2.4 hour at Daytona or at Nordschleife, a place like that. We've done all these special events. Bathurst, we've done a couple of special ones over the years. Of course, there's been a couple earlier on in the year. This one, 2 hours of Interlagos. Let's talk about the cars briefly, of course, before we'll see the grid once they're jumping into qualifying. But we'll speak of the cars. We've got LMDh, we've got GT3s, great multi-class combo between those two. Obviously, again, the way that those LMDh drivers are going to have to navigate their way through traffic all evening is going to be a sticking point for a lot of the drivers, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I mean, the first and third sector, I mean, you can see right there the Senna S's to start off the lap. Those corners tend to work quite well for the hypercars, and you can kind of find your way around the outside of these sweepers. High-speed corners in general are good, but this middle sector you're now seeing on the run up the hill, turns 6, 7, 8, 9. These are all very slow, twisty, technical corners off camber. The hypercars get a bit clumsy, or the LMDHs, I should say, the Lamborghini, the BMW, and the Porsche. It all gets a bit clumsy. The GT3 cars tend to work quite well around there, and when there's a lot of traffic around, you're going to see late moves, you're going to see people a bit tentative, scared to make a big dive. And then eventually, of course, opens out towards the end of the lap, down towards Junção that you can see now on screen, turn 12. That's going to be an important overtaking spot as well. And if you get a bad run out of Junção, Lewis, if you go down the inside, maybe get it wrong slightly, you are, of course, compromised and vulnerable all the way down the kind of pit straight, but also pit curves, because there are 2 left-hand kinks in there as well. So plenty of space where the traffic is going to cause problems, I would imagine, but also plenty of overtaking opportunities, which is exactly what we want to see from a race like this.
Certainly so, and you can kind of see from those videos as well there of the circuit we're racing at. One of the other changes behind the scenes, maybe more minor to some people, but maybe more focused on for others. Visual changes for RaceRoom. I've been in and around RaceRoom for a very long time. I've seen it develop. I've seen it change. I can definitely see the difference visually, even just from those shots there. We're not even seeing cars moving around or anything like that. Just how much better the game looks. It looks a lot more natural, and those kind of things they do feed in a little bit into the driving, but also just to how people feel in the sim and making it more of a modern sim.
Yeah, in the last year and a bit, RaceRoom have been making big moves in the visual department. First of all, there was a lot of improvements to cloud cover and details and things like that. But the most recent update, when the ranked service was updated in the last month or so, we also, as you say, saw big visual changes, especially to time of day. We still don't have night racing yet in RaceRoom, but racing in the evening, racing at sunset, sunrise just looks spectacular now. The sky looks more detailed, the colors are just more realistic and just a lot more interesting. So it's really become a more vibrant place to race. I don't know what time of day the race is tonight, actually. Lewis. I mean, I know what time of day it is right now in real life, but I'm not sure if we're racing into the kind of sunset or if it's earlier on. I guess we'll find out quite soon. But either way, it's going to look good, and yeah, it's just one of the many things that's been worked on behind the scenes at RaceRoom. They're really bringing lots of changes with all of these updates, and as sim racing fans, we'd love to see that.
Yeah, you can see again here, these are going to be, you said before, there's a real sticking point there through the middle of the circuit where things really do narrow up. You've got the run on the start finish straight where things are open. You've got a tricky pit entry to get right, quite a heavy braking zone there after effectively the final kink into a pit lane, which will be used quite a lot this evening. Of course, the LMDHs we expect to stop twice across the evening. GT3's little bit more open. 1 is possible, 2 also possible. And if you've ever watched RaceRoom special events before, when it's a bit open like that, trust me, someone's biting the finger off the strategy gods to try and work something new around here. So be curious to see what the drivers end up going for.
Absolutely. I mean, strategy is going to be key today, and I think it's exciting because it is an open playing field. Even with the LMDHs, which are probably going to make 2 stops, let's be honest, unless something goes wrong and someone might convert to a 3-stop. The intrigue, though, for that class comes from tyres, Lewis. Will we see drivers going for short stints and changing tyres each time on softs? Will we see double stint on the mediums? Will we even see someone try and do the whole race in the hards? We'll have to wait and see. And I can imagine if certain teams maybe have multiple players in the game, maybe we could see split strategies between different drivers. But of course, there will also be lots of drivers going it alone tonight, and it'll be fascinating to see. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for us to follow both classes throughout all the pit stops in terms of whose pit stops are shorter, who's taking tires. Maybe there's 2 tires, maybe there's 4. It's going to be very tricky, but we'll do our best to keep you across it. And as you say, yes, GT3, it's not only about tires, it's also about fuel. We expect that they can do it on 1 stop, but it's going to be very, very tight. So we might see some drivers opting for a 2-stop, going more aggressive, taking a bit less fuel. And tires, again, question mark. What compound will they go for? Will they stop and change tires? I don't think it's clear. From what I've spoken to a few drivers, I don't think there's one clear winning option. I think we'll see multiple different strategies, and that's going to be exciting. So yeah, I mean, we're going to have to wait until about 40 minutes in for the pit stops to start playing out, but it's going to be great. And now we can see our first track action with 17.5 minutes to go in qualifying, and that is a stunning looking Lamborghini SC63 LMDh car.
Yeah, love the Lambo. Absolutely crazy. I mean, to be fair, the LMDHs, I love all of them. I think they're absolutely insane beasts and look fantastic, sound fantastic, and probably a fun track to be battling them around. Obviously, we'll get some notes as to who we've got in the session once they've all started crossing the line, see who's going to be strong, see who's going to be doing well. Obviously, strategy is going to be one of those main talking points, but I still think track position is important there. There's Rebello across the line. It's at the first time of this qualifying session, that hypercar category. Gra goes up into second, which now Roche will take over the provisional pole. We've got one of those BMW M hybrids again. Maybe not quite as pretty as the Lambo, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's up for debate. It looks. The thing I like about the BMW is it is distinctly BMW. They've definitely gone down that route for the styling, but I guess that's what sets it apart. It's not had the biggest success, I would say, the BMW, especially over in IMSA. But I mean, it's clearly not bad. It's competitive, and it's just one of many manufacturers, which has been great to see. These hypercars as well, very recent additions to RaceRoom. So the GT3s have been around for a long time. We've obviously seen new GT3s added over time. We'll have a look at many of those there tonight. I think there was 7 or maybe even 8 for the drivers to choose from. But these LMDh cars are a fantastic addition. It's just great because we can really replicate modern simulated endurance racing in the way that the WEC do it, in the way that IMSA do it, and that's just exactly what we want to see. Already some great times coming in. A 1:22.6 from Roche on pole in the Porsche at the moment, with Grat in second.
Yeah, indeed. You can see some of the names that maybe we're used to seeing quite a lot on the RaceRoom ranked stuff. You've got Cody Nikolakowski, expect him to get stronger in that top group. We've got Thomas Ribeiro, who we're looking at here, did really, really well in the RaceRoom Super Touring Championship. Gontier directly behind. Alex Mosen, someone who definitely is pretty quick. And my boy himself, number 7th position at the moment in the hypercars. We've got Gaspar Misch, and you can tell by a lap 6.8 seconds off, he missed something on that lap.
Yep. Pretty early to get that one out of the way.
Yeah.
That's so early. You're going to run out of steam too quick, Lewis, if you keep on going with that.
Nah.
No, maybe never run out of steam. Nicola up to 3rd place as well in the Porsche. Now, a couple of Lambos there sitting in the top 5, which is great to see. Obviously, we will see these times drop a little bit as we go through, but the tyres don't take too long to warm up, so we should see quick laps within maybe 2 or 3 from the out laps. But I think a 22 is already good pace to get going here. 15 minutes to go. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3 as well, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Looking like 3 BMWs currently on top in GT3. So we've got Ribeiro from Gontier 6/10 ahead, and then Ollie Seyuk, I think that is, in 3rd place, the Spaniard, 1.2 off. So yeah, plenty of time still to come in for GT3s, of course, but already looking like a stacked field.
Yeah, did see Mosin went into the pit lane and has now returned out to the race circuit. Janssen went up to 8th, Bro went up to 7th position in those GT3 styles, returning into the pit lane. I think it's had a bit of an issue on this lap. Couple of laps coming in. Rydell goes up to 5th. That'll be Jonas, I believe, Rydell, who's gone up into 5th position. Whether we'll see both of them out the season, we'll have to wait and see. But 5 or 6 minutes into the session, of course, we still have 14 left to go. I think it's one of the trickiest parts of a session like this. Sometimes we do qualifying and the RaceRoom stuff. It's but basically it's a closed circuit. It's just you and the track. I do quite like. Yeah, I'd be nervous as a driver, but I do quite like that that it's an open track. Everyone's qualifying at the same time. Probably be a little bit frustrating because we saw one of the Mercs go for a bit of a spin.
Yeah, it's more realistic. So the drivers are going to be feeling it like they would in a real event, trying to find space. And having done a bit of endurance racing at a much lower level than GT3 and hypercar, it has to be said. But it is a nightmare trying to find room to get a good lap in. And obviously you can try and get a slipstream, but then you're risking catching up with your competitor or dirty air. So there's lots to think about. You've got to stay out the way of faster cars on flying laps. If you're a hypercar on an out lap, do you pass a GT3 in a hot lap? There's a lot to think about here, and obviously on RaceRoom, normally for a kind of let's say entry-level ranked races, you just get thrown on the server on your own. You can restart your laps as many times as you want. So if you go off on turn 2, you can just hit reset and start again. These drivers do not have that luxury, which is what we want to see in the top split, and especially in a special event like this, because we need to make it special.
Yeah, saw Code Nikola Latkovsky return to pit lane there in that bright yellow 963. So he'll be going out once more in the session. Do expect that the Macedonian will be pretty strong in this. I haven't really seen any of these race in this car, so we're very curious to see how they're all going to get on. We're looking at Franholz there in the Lamborghini. Kuchajville went up into 4th position, so the Czech driver working his way up. Senna goes up into 8th position in the GT3s. Not seeing as much. I think a lot of drivers are getting maybe potentially invalidated laps, something in that kind of vein around this qualifying session, because we're not. I mean, there's 17 cars that have qualified yet. There are obviously more than 17. Oh, sorry, 27 cars out there. So I suspect there's a few drivers that have had a few issues on their qualifying laps.
Hopefully they keep having issues so that it doesn't reach the end of our timing screens and we can still see off the name. No, you're right. Trying to get a valid lap is obviously going to be key here. Track limits around Interlagos. There's a few places where you can run over and get your time invalidated, but it's not as bad as some other circuits. So I'm not quite sure the reason why not everyone's managed to put in a good lap yet, but it might just be these drivers are pushing to the absolute limit. And we've talked about it a lot with RaceRoom in the past, Lewis, and you've witnessed it plenty of times with special events. The highest level in RaceRoom is a very, very high level. These guys are right on the limit, and it's unbelievable just how fast they can actually get these cars around. If you think you're a decent sim racer, you jump on a RaceRoom server and try and get up to speed, you might think you're fast, and then if you're me, you'll find out you're about 4 seconds off the pace. Like, it's incredible. So with all of those limits being pushed, of course, there's a very big chance that you're going to slightly cross over those limits. And track limits on RaceRoom can be, on the limit. Put it this way, they're not very lenient. They're gonna punish you if you try and take advantage of it too much, which is exactly how it should be. But we should hopefully see a few more laps come in as we go. It looks like more people have managed a lap in GT3 at this current point than the hypercar class. As you can see now, we're following Mish, and he's coming up to a lot of GT3 traffic. So this one, Lewis, even though he's 6.4 seconds off the pace right now, he's probably not going to go pole with this lap with all that traffic up ahead.
No, but it's just about getting somewhere up inside the top 10. It's only a position higher than him, but something of more of a bank lap time. He tries to navigate the first one, and there's a spin as well. So things getting a little bit awkward in there. He was trying to make a move going into Ferradura, and certainly works his way through, but it's obviously caused up with drama in there. Hopefully he's able to get around without any more mistakes, but either way, Ribeiro has returned to pit lane in the GT3 category. So we're seeing some of the GT3s. Again, it's the frustrating part for both sides of this category, which is maybe why we're not seeing so many, like a few drivers missing from the time sheets, is because it's so difficult to get a good lap in when all of your laps are having some form of issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always easy at all. And the time, it's incredible how fast the time passes in these qualifying sessions. You think you've got plenty of laps and opportunities, and then before you know it, you're realizing, oh, hang on, I need to get out of the pits right now, and I've got 2 laps to make it count. So there's obviously a small window as well for the tyres to be at their optimum, and at this level, you need your tyres to be in the right window in order to set a good lap time. The window's not super tight in this particular combination, but it's still going to be tricky. So there's so much at play. And I'm seeing quite big gaps at the moment, especially in GT3. Even down, the top 3 are covered by a second. So I do expect that to close up just a little bit as we go on. But it just proves, how quick Ribeiro's managed to go there in the BMW. And it looks like also, Lewis, BMW very, very strong as a car choice in GT3.
I mean, Ribeiro is absolutely fantastic as a driver. We saw this a little bit earlier on in the year in his exploits in the RaceRoom Super Touring Championship, where he put on quite a dominant display, especially, it wasn't even the first round. The first round he did all right. And then afterwards just started absolutely running away with things and basically was dominating the championship and successfully was victorious fantastically. I'd suspect he's coming into this with a high level of confidence. As you will well know, though, Mr. Monroe, a Super Tourer and a GT3, pretty not the same. Pretty much worlds apart. Almost to the same degree of worlds apart from a GT3 to a hypercar.
pretty not the same as yeah, that's an understatement. I think you know, Super Tourers are raw and fantastic and faster than you might expect, but very different driving experience to the GT3s and the way you have to drive them. Obviously though, the top drivers they know how to pedal different cars, and we will see slight differences in, you know, who's really good in certain categories and certain car classes, but the best of the best are often able to translate that over. We're currently looking at Olisei Ayuso in the BMW from the Shell car. He's coming up to finish his laps. We'll see if he moves up from 4th. Here is Cheyenne in the Lamborghini. We're going to see what happens when he crosses the line. He's 1.9 off the pace. He goes to 1.8 off the pace. So maybe that is genuine pace there in P9, sitting there for the Lamborghini, but a decent lap nonetheless, looking at around about a 123.8. So he'll be hoping he can find a little bit more pace in the final 8 minutes here today. And we've actually had a Porsche go up to 3rd in GT3. That's Samardich in the German in the Porsche, as I say. So finally a bit of a break in the stranglehold of BMWs there.
Yeah, indeed. A couple of more switches in there. Did see that Janssen also went up in the GT3s into 8th position. So a couple of further improvements there, which, like I say, we're seeing some fairly large gaps there. I think Ribeiro's even improved further because he's gone to 7/10 clear of Gontier. But like I say, just comfortable in this session at the moment. Again, you're wondering if that's necessarily going to be the pace this afternoon, if things are going to be that separated. Tarrant now goes up into 10th position, so we are seeing a couple of drivers still missing from the timesheets that are adding their name to the list around here at Interlagos, but and there goes Gold up into 9th position. Humer as well gets ahead of Bergqvist, so up to 15th position in that GT3 category. And Gasparish now 4.5 seconds off of the pole. Thing is, I think if you don't get those qualifying laps in early in the session, I think you're really up against it because of how busy this track is.
Yeah, I mean, you're up against it, obviously, literally, because it's difficult and there's a lot more cars in track, but also mentally. I always find that when I get later in the session, I know I haven't put a good lap together yet. The adrenaline's higher and the pressure's on more. You can't afford a mistake. You begin to tighten up a little bit, and it can affect your lap times. I really struggle with it, and that is often the case where I invalidate most of my early laps. It's happened many times before on RaceRoom and many other sims. Now looking at Senna in the BMW, appropriate name for a circuit like this, of course. 1.1 seconds off the pace, sitting in P5 at the moment, liking the different liveries we're seeing across the board here as well. Well, plenty of colour on the grid today. I'm really, really excited for that first lap, Lewis, just to see how everything looks and sounds, of course. As we see, there's a Porsche hypercar just in the background there coming through, so the 963 might catch the BMW on this lap in a slightly awkward place. We'll have to see. Maybe he can get past on the run up the hill towards Ferradura, but we'll have to wait and see. In fact, I think he will do exactly that, so hopefully that doesn't impede either lap.
I think it is Gaspar Misch who was the one coming through there at Ferradura. I know obviously code Nikola Latkovsky is in a bright yellow 963. Kotochville, I don't think we've seen too much of. Obviously, he put that time in to go with what was up to 4th before being beaten by Jonas Rydell and Rebello, so dropping down now into 6th position as Senna pulls over to one side. Mosen as well has called time on this stint, I believe, as Tarrant has as well. 5 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. There is still time to get a lap time in. We look at Shachan, who's in that 9th spot within 2 seconds of the pole. You quite rightly point out he went from 1.9 seconds to 1.8, but needs to find another 7/10 of a second to gain even a single spot. We've got 7 cars within a second in the hypercar category. Fran Holst's just a 10th off of that. But of course, it's only 2 cars within a second of pole. Well, one being the pole sitter himself in GT3, and the other one being Gontier. Ribeiro has put in a whopper of a time. It's quite tight behind him. I think the next, 8, 9 cars are all separated by a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ribeiro's just unbelievable with that lap time.
Yeah, I mean, remove Ribeiro, as you say, and you've got an amazing race in terms of pace battle for the lead. So it just proves exactly how good a job that Ribeiro's doing at the moment with that 131.1. Of course, it's going to be a long race. There's going to be a lot of traffic to deal with and all these things. So, we've seen there Nikola Latkovsky sending it in to the S's in the middle of the lap. I don't know if that was turn 8. I believe he just lost the rear on the way and almost locked up. You can actually, in qualifying, Lewis, if you get it right, you can almost use that to your advantage if you lock up the tyres just enough so that you get the rotation. And it's not something you would necessarily want to do or mean to do, but it doesn't mean your lap time is necessarily ruined, although we've got a little bit of lag going on as well by the looks of it for Latkovsky, so we'll see if he does it on this lap. But yeah, it's something you don't want to be doing in the race, but in qualifying you can just wind back that brake bias a little bit, use a little bit more pressure on the way in, and just try try, if you get that rotation by accident, you don't necessarily lose time. You can just power through the corner. So let's see if this is an improvement then for Latkovsky. I don't expect it to be. It is an improvement. Look at that. He's gone to only 1/10 off of Roche. So really, really taking it now to our current pole sitter. Only less than 2/10 of a second covering the front row, which is a pair of Porsches at the moment. And thankfully, Lewis, they're in different colours, which means we might know which one's which. Because of course, being a ranked race, anyone can sign up for this race, and depending on your rating, you can be in the top split. What that of course means is we don't have an entry list before the event, and we're kind of learning liveries and stuff as we go. So please do bear with us. Lewis might be amazing and know every single livery of every driver, but I'm going to struggle until we get used to seeing a bit more of the race. So do bear with us on calling out which driver we're actually seeing at any given moment.
Yeah, no, we're in for an evening of wild guesses, I think, at least when it comes to that. One thing I am liking seeing, though, at least when it comes to certain balances in that hypercar category, I mean, look, if you look at certainly the top 9 drivers in there, we have 3 Porsches, 3 BMWs, and 3 Lamborghinis, which is always good to see. Of course, like I say, all Porsche on the front row, all BMW on the second row. Before we get to Rebello in the first of those Lamborghinis. Fran-Holtz, by the way, did also improve to go up into that 7th position as Bros unfortunately pulled up the yellow flag. The thing is, if you're getting a yellow flag now, well, effectively your session might be coming to a close, especially if you're having a certain incident in there, get some damage. You're not really going to get back to pit lane, get back out, get all the way around, and get the tyres into the operating window. So for a lot of these drivers, it is now or never. Here comes Roche up towards the lines at 1:22.0. Is there any improvement on this lap time? No, there is not. But 2 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. Still got 2 laps he can complete. Oh, well, I think it's 1 lap in this session because it should come to a close on the dot of 0. I don't actually necessarily know with open sessions if it keeps going. I don't think it does.
I'm going to run on the assumption that once it hits 0, that's you done. But as you say, it's different for special events, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. But yeah, great to see different marks being represented, of course, and qualifying pace doesn't mean race pace. Different cars can be different on tyre wear as well, so that's going to be something very important for the race. But Roche is your top Porsche driver at the moment. You've got Gra there as the top BMW driver and Rebello as the top Lamborghini, and they're all inside the top 5 in hypercar. And then in GT3, Ribeiro's your front runner in the BMW. You've got Samardic in the Porsche. You've got Mercedes of most in 6th as well. There are 7 cars you can choose in GT3. I don't know if we've got every manufacturer represented. I don't know if there's an Audi, which is obviously not one of the newer cars. I'm not seeing an Audi at the moment in that top 18. We do have a Ferrari, BMW, Porsche. We've got Lamborghini as well. Maybe a sole Lamborghini there with Bergqvist and a sole Ferrari with Humer. So a little bit less variety in GT3 relatively. A lot of BMWs and quite a lot of Porsches being picked as well. But we do have a few splatterings of other vehicles too. So that's good to keep an eye on. And of course, different cars will have different strengths and weaknesses in different areas. Will Roche improve on this lap though, Lewis? It's going to be potentially his final go here. He's going to come to the line. It's clearly a good lap because he's running close to the wall as possible. That means he's still pushing for a faster lap, and it is a 1:21.9. So he breaks the 22 barrier. That could make the difference come a minute's time.
Yeah, depends if Cody Nikola Latkovsky can get his yellow 963 into contention for that pole position. 50 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. The time is ticking down. Roche at the moment on that provisional pole. We're looking at Fran-Holtz here, who now is outside of 1 second of pole, 2,000 ahead of Locke, who in 8th position in that BMW, I think is still most certainly powering around this circuit. But you can see time is ticking on. The circuit is becoming more and more empty, which is great if you're on a lap and quite late into it because, well, you've got less traffic to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, as drivers begin to give up and realize they're not going to get round again, it opens out beautifully. And as you see here, Fran-Holtz seems to have a clear run in that bright green Lamborghini. So let's see if he can break into the top 6. He needs to find a couple of tenths, or not even that, 10th and a half to outperform Kratchovili. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's going to come into the last corner. On the brakes, the car dips down, gets it turned in. The line looks good, and he's lost the rear. Just as I was saying, it was looking good. Carried a little bit too much in. Not sure if that was a rear lockup, but the rear certainly came around on him. And that will, of course, be curtains for Fran-Holtz. It looks like, though, Roche is hanging on at the moment. Maybe we will get to finish the laps wrong because the timer is out, Lewis, but it doesn't look like the cars are disappearing off the circuit just yet. So, as Fran-Holtz practices his pit lane entry, in fact, that is us.
Yeah, so session done. Roche then will be starting from the pole position. Ribeiro grabbing the pole, of course, in the GT3 category as well. So superb laps put together here in split 1. But do remember, again, one of those new things with this new ranked system that we've got here in our first special event on the new ranked system. There are other splits as well. So whilst we're talking about the top drivers here in RaceRoom's, spare a thought that there's hundreds of other drivers also taking to the circuit, doing exactly the same race as what we're seeing here. I think if I was on the circuit, I think there's 7, maybe 8 splits, I would be in probably the second bottom. I think you've got a good chance to challenge for top split. You're quite good.
Lewis, you're actually underselling yourself a lot there, because we used to race together, and you were only about 6 seconds off of the pace. So, like, you're really not. No, you're pretty decent. I reckon you'd be somewhere in the top half of splits anyway. You know, I don't know if you passed your best, but you were good once.
Oh, I certainly am past my best. Let me tell you. I think the last good lap I did in a sim race was probably about 2 years ago. But that's fine. That's fine.
And you remember it as well, which is great.
I do remember it because I can tell you exactly where it was. I can tell you what circuit it was, what car it was in. I can tell you who it was against. But either way, I won't do any of that because the race has begun. It's Roche who'll be leading down into the first corner ahead of Cody Nikolankovsky. There was a spin for Gra in the background in one of the BMWs. So he's been sent around at the opening corner of the circuit. So in the GT3 categories, Ribeiro has been able to lead from Gontier. I think Samardzic has had a bit of a slow start to the race and has dropped back into 5th position. He did start this one from 3rd.
Yeah, and it seems like a bit of a disaster for anyone who started 3rd, because of course Grab was also starting 3rd in Hypercar, and he's gone around. It looks like we've also potentially just lost Eliseu Ayuso. He might have spun off as well, so that's a real shame. So we've dropped a few cars already for spins, but it's a long time, so they can hopefully get back into it. But at the moment, it looks like the Porsches are breaking away. You've got a 2-second lead now for Roche, and of course Nikola Latkovsky going with him as well. So it's a good start for those two. Riedel in 3rd and Rebello 4th.
Samardzic has been spun round as well, even further. He's dropped down to 18th and last in the GT3 session, GT3 race rather. Of course, we'll be watching them navigate around this circuit, and Roche with Latkovsky behind. And of course, that 2-second gap now back to Riedel and the BMW. That's quite a margin to have opened up from the duo of Porsches at the front of the field.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they've actually gained another second on this opening lap since we last spoke about it. So I don't know if the BMW is struggling to get the tyres warm, or just, I'm not quite sure. The gap's come down again a little bit into the S's, so potentially just a little bit of inaccuracy on the timing tower in terms of the gap. But it's around about 2 to 3 seconds there for this front group. It's going to be calm at the moment at the front. It's going to be hot lapping. These guys are going to treat it like qualifying and try and run away. And I wouldn't be surprised if Roche and Latkovsky do try and run away in those Porsches, but it's when they catch the GT3s is when things are going to really kick off. Meanwhile, speaking of GT3, Senna currently up to 3rd place, hanging on for Mohsen at the moment in the Mercedes, looking to break that BMW stranglehold at the top. Mohsen's going to be in the slipstream now as they head down the hill. Is he going to go for the inside? He's just peeking out of the slipstream. He's going to pull back in, so no kind of a brave dive down the inside of Tessida del Lago for Senna as they now head back up the hill through turn 5 towards Ferradura. But unfortunately, we can't quite see whether he's going to make a move. So we're going to have another look at the front runners now. This is Riedel in 3rd. So basically, you've got the Riedel train at the moment, and of course, there's only lap 2, so we've got a lot of time for this battle to settle. But you can just see the Porsches scampering away in the front.
Yeah, of course. You could be right. Maybe it is a tyre thing on the BMW there of Jonas Riedel and those behind, because obviously they weren't separated by too much in qualifying, but the top 2 have been able to run away from the rest of the field. Now, obviously they could be running different tyres, they could be running lower fuel, they could be running in a more aggressive strategy and not fuel saving. Here comes Cody Nikolankovsky, bright yellow, looking to the outside as we work our way into the Senna S, down through into the second apex, and of course around turn 3 on the run out through the back of the circuit, down towards turn 4 into Tessida del Lago on the Retroposta. This could be the move coming in from Cody Nikolankovsky here into 4. You can do inside or outside.
Going to look to the outside. He's going to force, of course, defensive line from Roche. They were so close running through Curva de Sol there, but it looks like Roche has held on for the moment. Of course, it's a long race. Latkovsky doesn't need to make a move right now. It's going to open up later on, but great to see them running so close so early. And of course, RaceRoom very much allows you to run super close to each other. You can run side by side. You might even see the occasional bit of door banging here as we now look back at that bright yellow JDC Miller Porsche is looking menacing in the mirror. But yeah, you can run really close to the RaceRoom. You can have some great racing, even in cars like these, and that's exactly what we want to see. So expect a lot of that going forward.
Yeah, indeed. I think there has been a retirement, by the way, in the GT3 category. Not sure as to which driver has gone missing. I thought it might have been Samardzic, but I don't believe it is. Someone else, though, has gone missing from our timing tower. There's only 17 runners in the GT3 category. So there has been our first retirement ticked off. It might be Bergqvist, but not sure. Either way, it is a BMW 123 in that category at the moment. No, there's Bergqvist in 12th. So we'll have to get an update on that one.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out and see if we can work out. Have we seen Hummer in the order recently? Anyway, we'll keep an eye out and we'll see. Meanwhile, still 2 tenths in it from the front. So these guys are settling down. Riedel seems to have settled down a little bit too. He's 3.3 off the pace at the moment. So they are still stretching out that lead as Nikola Latkovsky looks to the inside now. So he's actually going to have the overlap heading down. No, in fact, he doesn't. He pulls back into the slipstream. Now he pulls out again. So just trying to be around the mirror. He does, in fact, go for a move down the inside. So we're going to go for it pretty early on. Roche runs wide, doesn't want to get involved in any sort of contact this early in the race and leaves extra room just to avoid an incident there with Nikola Latkovsky. But that was, Lewis, a brave and fairly aggressive move at this stage of the race, but it was completely clean, and he's allowed to do what he wants. So there you go, great move for the lead.
Yeah, the two 963s at the front doing battle brilliantly at present. We've got Latkovsky now leading from Rush. We can see as we head into the GT3 category in the top right of your screen, keeping your eye on Gontier, who's currently running in second in that class, 2 seconds behind Tomas Ribeiro. Senna's not too far behind, but importantly, they do have a couple of cars in them. Of course, that will be the BMW of Creed, who I think has dropped back into the clutch after a couple of spins in the opening stages. I do think for Latkovsky and for Roche, there's probably not a million miles away from finding their way into some form of lap traffic, because the rear end of that GT3 field, well, they won't be too far ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not going to take too long, and it's going to be incredible when it does. I always love those moments in endurance races, and it doesn't just happen once, it happens multiple times early on, and then, of course, before you know it, we'll be into the pit stops. As we saw there, a bit of a look from Rebello, or maybe just a slightly missed braking point, or not quite getting it down to the apex in time, and that opens up the gap a little bit there. Now Rebello's going to be under pressure from the check behind, so we'll have to wait and see. 2 tenths between them. Is he going to look to the inside? The Porsche, he does look a little bit, but just a peek at this point. He's not going to go for the move that we saw Latkovsky make on Roche. Interested, Lewis, to see now if Latkovsky will try and drive away from Roche now that he's got that move done. We'll see what the pace is like. I wouldn't be surprised if the two of them stay tied together, but it's still working for them, right? Even if there's a change of position, they're still moving slowly away from Riedel, as Kratashvili looks like he's still pestering the back of the Lamborghini, but not able to make a move just yet. We'll need to wait until he gets a bit closer, but at this point there's no massive rush, unless of course they want to be chasing down these leaders, because that gap now up to around 5 seconds for the top 5, so they'll have to be wary if they still have intentions to win this race. But what can you do when the drivers out front are carrying such good pace?
Yeah, but then, you know, a mistake can come out of absolutely nowhere. We saw that a little bit in qualifying when we were watching the final couple of laps coming in from the likes of Shachan, where there was that spin at the final real corner down at Junkao. So it is very possible to have that. Here comes a switch for the race lead once more. Roche looking to the outside, onto the brakes, going into the center S. They're going to remain side by side. Oh. Big slide coming in from Roche. So Coach Nikola Latkovsky is able to retake over the race lead. That was a pretty substantial slide. Whilst all that was happening, by the way, Shieldrex got past Mosin in the battle for 4th position, and the yellow flag has come out further down in the hypercar category.
Yeah, we'll have to see who that was as it goes for the move. There he gets it done on Rebello. A late move to the inside, but great stuff nonetheless. Gets down the inside, a bit of an opportunistic one, but gets it done, and that's a change of position for P4. Rebello down to 5th.
It was Shachan, by the way, I think was the one who went for a spin, was running in 6th position, now drops down into 8th in class and about 8 seconds or so behind. Got to be careful, of course, for the next couple of laps to make sure that the tyres don't completely drop off their operating window after a slide. It's always the way any sim you kind of racing on you've got to treat it exactly the same way. If you go for a slide, go for a spin, have an issue, you've got to be careful on these tyres, at least for the next half a lap to bring them back in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crucial to try and let them calm down a little bit again, so we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, you can see there, Latkovsky's got a little bit of a gap now, 8 tenths of a second, so just beginning to ease away from Roche, which is interesting to see because, of course, Roche was our pole sitter, so Roche ultimately had the qualifying advantage, but it was only 2 tenths. Latkovsky on that lap just making it work, and as you say, Lewis, it's possibly down to the overheating of the tyres for Roche, that incident we saw into the first hairpin, and this time, no mistake from Roche. He gets down to the apex, no problem on the curb, but it could well be that tyre temperature you spoke of that's cost them 6 tenths, but as I say, as soon as they catch the traffic, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, it's nothing.
I think you've got to remember there with that gap that's grown as well, is that potentially Roche might have backed out a little bit off the back of Nikola Latkovsky. Also, Nikola Latkovsky could have gone, right, I know I've got to look after these tyres for X amount of time, but I am going to push now to try and build some of that gap, because the more they battle, the more it brings in the Jonas Riedels, the Kotachvilles as well. And once you start bringing those lot in, well, that time's gone. That effectively, the tyres that you've spent to build that gap, that's gone now, and then you can't really work that out because the tyres, if they've already been spent, they don't magically come back on a wear side of things. So you're not going to find that pace once again. So there is maybe that kind of dynamic happening between the two of them if they are going for shorter stints early on. We look at Hudak, Forik's going around the outside, Rorik's going around the outside at the moment into the opening corner, and Rorik will easily manage to get that BMW M4 all the way around the outside of the opening turn, but the up and under could be coming in here for Hudak.
Yeah, it's great racing. It was a lovely move in the first place to go on the outside, but not really challenged too much. There was a bit of space left, but as you can see, it's not over. We've got another car in behind as well. Is that another BMW? So there's 3 of them, all within the space of about half a second. You can throw a blanket over them, but looks like he's got the move done. So Rorik up to 7. Hudak now under big pressure from Oliseyuk. And we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. By the way, I do have a quick update. It looks like we did lose Bro in the Porsche from GT3, so that was our early retirement. Not sure what happened, but that was our 18th competitor. Qualified 15th. Unfortunately, hasn't made it past the opening 10 minutes here, but hopefully he can come back and compete the next time we have a special event here on Race Room.
On board with Cody Nikolakowski in the top right hand of your screen. You can tell now from where we're looking at the circuit in the middle of those GT3s and what you've got around that Porsche 963 as he gets his way past Huma, the Austrian driver. He's in traffic, is our race leader, Cody Nikolakowski, and Rush has been able to close up to 3 or 4 tenths directly behind. So exactly what you were saying earlier, as soon as they get through the traffic, that gap of 7-8 tenths of a second will either grow massively if one's a little bit more aggressive in traffic, or generally speaking, the more likely outcome is that everything closes its way back down.
I mean, the lap time variable here with the traffic can be anywhere up to 3 seconds, I would say, Lewis. You know, if you get caught out badly in that middle sector in particular, you could lose 3 seconds without even making a mistake. And it's only a 2-hour race. It maybe sounds long to some that are used to the sprint racing format. This is a sprint race, don't get me wrong. 2 hours, you know, these drivers will be pushing pretty much flat out all the way through. And we will see different risk levels through the traffic. Some will be absolutely desperate to get through as quick as possible. Others will maybe be playing the longer game slightly, but it can make a big difference. So if you're looking at the timing tower, you're seeing big oscillations of a couple of seconds. It doesn't mean one driver struggling. It could just be traffic. And of course, you will gain sometimes, you will lose out other times. It always comes back around. So it's something you've just got to be patient with, understanding of the traffic. And you can see there, I mean, how busy it is on the top right of your screen as we see the Porsche go down the inside. That is, of course, Roche. We're on board with now our second place car. You can still see the yellow 963 up ahead. So the gap remaining down at half a second, and of course Latkovsky was essentially firing the warning shots to these GT3s as they come through, and then they're immediately going to have another Porsche right in behind. But this is the stuff I love to see with endurance racing. Yeah,
certainly. So he had a good look as well at the lone Ferrari 296 in that GT3 category of Huma, who was under a fair amount of pressure from the start, but that gap seemed to have grown out there. That was giving me some heart and mouth moments, but it's just a technical there for Cody Nikolakowski. Woo, that was...
Hopefully he wouldn't have experienced that behind the wheel. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have, but he'd be feeling quite dizzy right now.
He hasn't been able to gain, though, 1.3 seconds and all of that, so that's the gap now between Cody Nikolakowski and Rush. So Alex Mosen is the one they've just got through. So only a couple more left to go in the GT3 category before they're at the front of the field. Gets past Shildrake as well in the opening corner is Cody Nikolakowski. Once he's through the centre, 6 seconds up to Thomas Gontier. And then, of course, not that far up the road between Gontier and Ribeiro as well. So we'll wait and see how that one's going to unfold. But let's get some clean air. There was someone having a bit of a moment in the background. I believe that would have been Kutochville.
Yeah, so there's plenty of things happening. I think also Riedel's lost a bit of momentum and pace as well, dropping down to 5th. He was up in 3rd not too long ago. I think, in fact, was that the move that we saw into turn 1? And he maybe dropped further back. Apologies if I'm getting confused there. That might have been the move we saw, but either way, Kutochville up into P3. Only 6.6 seconds off the lead now, so that 3rd Porsche beginning to just slowly chip away at that front 2, but of course the front 2 have been through more traffic, so this is the thing. Once Kutochville catches up and goes through the same amount of traffic, he will of course have the same struggles, and you just hope to pass them on a straight. We've got Rebelo 4th and Riedel still in 5th, and then in GT3 it's an all BMW top 4 at the moment, Lewis. So Ribeiro, as you say, Gontier 2nd place, and then Senna. So big gaps as well, 6 seconds between each of these. We'll see that whether those gaps will continue to extend or there will be some closing a little bit later on. We'll also see what tyre strategies are happening, because that's the other thing we have to bear in mind, Lewis. Some of these drivers might be on harder compounds of tyres looking to go longer, so they might lose a bit of pace now and then gain it with the pit stops later. Other drivers might be going fully aggressive on their strategy with softs and mediums, so we're really not going to know the true order of this race until around about 1 hour 59 minutes into it.
Yeah, that's normally how it goes in these kind of races, isn't it? Especially if they go for those gambles on the strategy. We'll see how that one's going to unfold, especially when it comes to when they're making their first stops, which we do expect. In around 25 minutes' time, we might see those opening pit stops. Some might extend a little bit further. If anyone's going very aggressive in the hypercar category, I doubt they would, but maybe they would be stopping. If you're going to go for a 3-stop, I don't really know why you would, but in my time commentating on RaceRoom's special events, the why you would sometimes is just because why not. You can see a lot of damage here on the front end of the Porsche of Stahl, the bright. I was going to say it's blue. It's more turquoise, isn't it? And blue Falcon type.
Oh, someone's off.
Yes, indeed.
Didn't see who it was, unfortunately. I didn't even see what class of car it was, but I think, yeah, it's a GT car, but is that the Ferrari in the background?
Certainly is. So it is Huma, the only Ferrari 296 on the field, unfortunately, having a bit of a spin there at T4.
Yeah, easy done, of course, Lewis. And it's worth pointing out as well, these drivers will be on the limit with their setups too. On RaceRoom, you do have traction control you can use, but the further, the lower you go with that, potentially more pace unlock, the risk you take with the corner exits. And potentially that's someone running very low traction control, gaining pace out of it, but it does mean you are susceptible to spins, and I believe he just lost the rear on the way out. Could have also been a bit of a loss of traction on that curb, because it is a tricky one. It's slightly off camber. Yeah,
it's a really, really difficult curb there, especially with where the AstroTurf is, or effectively on the runoff. It becomes very slippery. And also, if you've done your fair amount of racing around here, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But where there's the curb, it kind of drops off a little bit, just on the other side of it, and you can effectively beach the car slightly, and that can cause it to go for a very aggressive spin that's just uncatchable. And especially if you're running, the exact opposite, though. If you're running very high traction control, and that kicks in when you start to slide, that can also instigate a spin.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can lose the cars. We haven't even talked about the braking. You could have lost under braking there with the lockup. There's a million different ways that you could crash that car around turn 5 here at Interlagos. And speaking of ways that you can crash the BMW into another BMW, as we see there, the hypercars not taking any prisoners when it comes to the lap traffic. Of course, there's a race on there. I believe that might have been Riddell and Rebello. I'm not sure. It was a Lamborghini and a BMW. You don't want to say it could be further down the order, that combination, but either way it got a bit tasty there, didn't it, Lewis? And there may be a bit of damage from that. That was quite a big impact, and I don't know if the BMW knew that the hypercar was down the inside, but to me it looked as if he'd already committed, and maybe there was a bit of, well, I've committed now, I'm panicking, but I'm going to be at the apex and I just hope you see me. And unfortunately there was contact.
It was, I believe it was actually Locke and Traxion who were battling over 7th and 8th position, but affecting the fight rather for 3rd position in that GT3 category. It's allowed Shielddrake to get through into 3rd. Here comes Senna back on the attack. Alex Mosin waits in the background there in 5th position at present to maybe steal away the podium once more. All 3 of these cars are separated by less than a second, less than half a second even, by the time they cross the line. And out onto the Retroposta once again. It is the BMW of Shielddrake ahead of the BMW of Senna, ahead of the Mercedes of Mosin for another group of BMWs in the background. It is most certainly the favoured car, at least here in the GT3 category. Mosin's trying to prove that, well, don't sleep on the Merc.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's always fun to do something a bit different. And of course, there is pride to be had if you can be the first across the line in your particular manufacturer. Now, I think most might be the only Mercedes, so that's kind of a given at this stage. But regardless, if you can take it to the BMWs, there's something very enjoyable about that as well, and another challenge to go for. The GT3 race is kind of playing out like we thought it might based on qualifying, Lewis, because Ribeiro's miles off in front. Gontier is not, I mean, he's doing a very good job, but he's also in a bit of no man's land. And then you've just got this incredible battle through the rest of the field who are super closely matched. So it just looks like everyone's doing a great job. Everyone's really, really close, but Ribeiro's just found something extra, and it's mighty, mighty impressive. As we now cut to that battle, as you said, this was where the contact happened with the back marker, so apologies to Riedel there for the incorrect call. But it looks like Sajan is looking a bit. I thought he was going on the aggressive, but actually it's a late move from behind and a fantastic opportunistic move from the BMW, and there's no reply there. I honestly thought he was going to go for a move. He ended up losing a position. Great stuff.
Yeah, it was Arthur Gras who went for that move down the inside up to 8th position on Traxion. No, you're absolutely right. I thought that Lambo was going to go on the attack, but Traxion, the Hungarian, thought, oh, well, maybe not. Sometimes if you're going to do that, you're going to get sent as well. And there was a big move to the inside. Kotochville's gone for a spin in 4th, and he's going to lose out to Rydell and to Franholt. So what's happened to the Czech driver who's trying to get back going again? But his Porsche has been dropped down the field, unfortunately, losing a couple of spots in that top group. He was running in 3rd.
Yeah, nightmare, because he was the one driver who looked like he was maybe taking it pace-wise to those front two, and clearly pushing on, and it's unfortunately caught him out there. He's now 22 seconds off the lead, but we've seen the pace. If he can get the tyres back in check, maybe get some new ones on in about 20 minutes time, we could of course see a charge back towards the podium, but certainly not ideal at this stage in the race. Unfortunately, we didn't see what happened, but if he's not got any damage, we should see the car continue around. In fact, he looks a little bit like he's maybe... No, he's not pulling into the pits. Absolutely not. Meanwhile, we return to Arthur Gras, who's looking very racy at the moment on the back of Locke. So after that previous move on Traxion in the last lap, now he's going to look for P7. Locke's going to leave the space at the moment. Gras got the overlap, I believe, just about on the inside, and we know he can brake late down here. Commitment. The Lamborghini's now having a look as well. It's going to be a great three-way scrap. In fact, around the outside, is Locke going to hold it? No, Gras got the upper hand, and not only does he make the move, he's also built up a little bit of safety margin as Locke now comes under pressure from Traxion. Yeah,
a little bit messy there, running up towards the second apex from Locke, and like I say, it might leave him a little bit open down into turn 4. Alas is able to hang on for now, but you get the feeling, based on the pace that Arthur Gras was able to get through on the two of those, might just be able to check out into the distance after some early dramas in this race. Depends what Locke's like in this middle sector, and depends if there is going to be a move coming in from the Lamborghini behind. And if Traxion can do so, I mean, there's a few opportunities in the middle of the circuit, especially up to Pico de Pato, turn, was it 10 on this circuit. You've got a bit of a dive there. It's where Lewis Hamilton so elegantly sent around Alex Albon, to the frustration of me in 2020, if I remember correctly.
I thought you were going to say that was where he got passed by Sebastian Vettel in 2008, but I'm just showing my age a little bit there.
Yeah, sorry.
I think I'll just leave now. Fraunholt's looking
I'm older
very...
than you, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, that's terrible for both of us. Fraunholt's on the back of... We were racing together for about a decade ago, Lewis, or more than that. That's terrifying. We're already past our best then. But these guys are certainly not past their best. Fraunholt's looking close to the back of Riedel. He's got the slipstream down the pit straight, so the Lamborghini looking racy at the moment, looking to take away P4 from our top BMW competitor. The two Germans battling out very close together. Rebello's been able to kind of run away from this pack. And of course, they're going to have to watch their mirrors, because you can see there in P6 lurking, of course, is Kratashvili, who was unfortunately for him, came a cropper earlier on. We didn't see what happened, but of course now 4 seconds back, we know he's got the pace, so we will see that Porsche potentially hunting like a shark and getting back up to that battle for P4.
Now let me tell you, someone who might need to be looking into his mirrors, not yet, but maybe sometime in the future, our race leader Cody Nikolakowski. The gap was 2.2, 2.3 seconds. I mean, maybe there's been some traffic, but I did see it had gone down to about 1.6, and it's obviously gone back up to 2, and obviously it's going to fluctuate a little bit around the circuit anyway. The main point, though, is that after 22.5 minutes of the race, Roche is not a million miles off. He's keeping company. He's in that point where he's forcing the hand of the Macedonian through traffic. He's saying, look, if you don't want me in your mirrors, you're going to have to go a little bit quicker through traffic than I am, and I'm going a bit full send here. And I think that's one of those ones it's lingering in the mind a little bit of our race leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there's clearly not a big pace difference between the two of them. I mean, we saw that in qualifying, only 2/10. Of course, Roche having the advantage there. So psychologically, Lekowski knows that Roche can pull out a lap that's potentially even quicker. And yes, the move was done by Lekowski earlier on, showing that potentially maybe the race pace is there, but I can't imagine these guys are on different tyres either. Based on how close they were in qualifying pace-wise, to carry that over to the race and be this close, I would imagine they're probably on the same tyres, or at least most likely to be on the same tyre strategy at this stage. But I don't think there was any traffic involved in that closing of the gap, Lewis. So I do think Roche in open airs maybe managed to close in about half a second on Latkovsky. But again, it comes back out now to 2.3. It was down to 1.6 at some point. There was traffic on that lap.
Yeah.
So it basically, there's not much in it, is there? And it just means that Latkovsky, who gets very close to the BMW around the outside, great place to catch them though on the pit straight, of course. Latkovsky's going to have to keep an eye in the mirror, as you were saying, going to have to keep the pressure down, because one small mistake, if you catch the car in the wrong place, that gap is going to diminish straight away.
Yeah, looks to the outside now on the Porsche as they head round the third corner. This is where the traffic's getting a little bit thicker in this mid-pack of the GT3 category. He got past Smarzic, and of course, then working his way through. Smarzic was the one in the Porsche, I believe, and so just getting through them bit by bit, and not going too badly about it either. Yellow flag has come out for the third time for Humer. Came out a little bit, literally about a minute ago, and has now come out once more, and I do get the feeling the Austrian driver is struggling a touch with the Ferrari 296 around this Interlagos circuit. We saw that spin going out of turn 4, and there's obviously been 2 more as well whilst we've been watching up and down the field. This is back to Shildrake in 3rd position, who of course got past Senna and Mosin in the recent past. We saw some of those moves, and Shildrake's been able to pull out almost a second on Senna behind.
Yeah, I was just going to say that as well. Just looks to be edging away from that gap. Obviously, Senna was the front of the train from P3, but the fact that Shildrake has managed to pull out a second tells me that the pace is there for Shildrake. Of course, Mosin right in there behind Senna still too, so we're still seeing a battle for P4 and P5 between the Mercedes and the BMW, but yeah, Shildrake managing to get away. I mean, I say that, Lewis, there's only 8/10ths between them, and we did see the pressure that Mosin was applying to Senna earlier on. I mean, 8/10ths could easily come from, a couple of laps of heavy pressure and defensive driving, so maybe I'm being a bit unfair there to say that Shildrake's easing away. A second could disappear just like that. And of course, we've talked about how much the hypercars can be affected by traffic, as very deep from Brownholtz and around he goes. Just carried too much speed into the Senna S's there, and you could see the rear trying to overtake him from minute 1 in that corner. He was battling it, just too much pace in the car. The tyres could not hold on, and around went the Lamborghini. Thankfully, he's not lost too much time. He's still in P6, but he has, of course, dropped behind Chivli. I'm going to struggle with that one. Get my words out. But he has, of course, dropped a couple of seconds back there in P6, and he will now have Artur Graf behind him in P7. So Graf's been doing a good job as well, Lewis, hasn't he? Coming through the field in that BMW, looking strong, and now he's got a Fraunholtz with very, very hot tyres on his Lamborghini.
I was going to say, might have the opportunity to pass Fraunholtz fairly soon. We look back into the fight for the podium in the GT3 category, although it's not really a fight for the podium anymore because Shildrake's been able to check out. It was a second on the previous lap. It's now gone out by a second on this lap alone. And now Alex Mosin has the perfect opportunity to try and get past Senna. Not too far behind is Rorik as well, so there could be an opportunity as well for his BMW M4 in this move as well. There comes a look to the outside from Mosin, goes all the way around the outside at turn 1. Hooks up to the apex, the second part of the Senna S, and will complete the move. So Mosin up now into 4th position, clearly showing some solid speed in that Mercedes at present over the BMW. We'll have to defend a little bit here down into turn 4. That car directly behind, that BMW M4 directly behind the one in the more standard livery, I guess you could put it that way. That is not for position as far as I'm aware. I think Rorik is the black and red one that's a little bit further behind.
Oh, that is a good spot, because I was about to call that as Rorik, so good one there. But yeah, these three very, very closely matched, and maybe the car behind trying to recover after a problem. I wonder if that is our 17th place runner in the BMW there. And you're absolutely right, yeah, Rorik a couple of seconds back. There it is, the black and red car. So Senna will not be feeling as much pressure as perhaps it looks, but you can see there the back marker looking to make its way through the field again. So clearly there's good pace there. And it's going to be difficult to navigate this one, whether you want to get too involved in the battle. But so far, just sitting in there behind, keeping the slipstream. Things will, of course, change when it comes to the pit stops. But Senna, unfortunately for him, dropping back another spot now down to P5 after sitting in a quite strong P3 early on this race. That was a bit wide as well there on the exit heading onto turn 14 through Young So bit of a struggle there for Senna, and perhaps that's going to drop him further back behind Mosin. So potentially a comeback fight not quite on there, as we see more traffic for Fraunholtz and the Lamborghini.
Yeah, indeed. Like I say, it's it's not the easiest to get around, and so we're getting some back markers in each given category as well, which is sometimes not as easy. And I do get the feeling that for some of those drivers, when they are kind of in and around each other, I think it's Vandenbreck who's the one that sat on the rear end of the field. Now, when that's the case, it can be, if you've been to the pit lane, got some fresh tyres on, and you know those that are still out there are on the old tyres, that's where you get that pace. It's kind of like you're in a bit of mixed opinion, where it's like you want to get after it because you want to get past them, because obviously you've got pace in your car, but you're a lap down them, so you kind of can't, and it's that awkward middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I mean, it's something we've seen even in Formula 1 around Interlagos multiple times, where drivers are lap down. You don't really know what to do when you've got more pace, and it is very, very challenging. It's why drivers, sometimes you see a car that's just a second ahead of somebody, or ahead of a leader in particular, and you think, why aren't they just getting out of the way? But instead, they're so desperate to stay on that lead lap, because as soon as you go a lap down, it just creates this very difficult, awkward situation where you don't want to interfere. It would be unfair if you were to interfere and cost your rivals, but at the same time, you're trying to do your own race and you have the pace. And with the pit stops and stuff, you could end up naturally a lap off the lead while still being in a good fight, because maybe a pit stop takes around about a lap. So it is a bit of a difficult one with endurance racing. It's just one of the many challenges that these drivers have to face. But I think, Lewis, my opinion is, an endurance race like this, multiple classes, it's okay. If you're a lap down and you have the pace and you want to get through, blue flags in this are more as a safety warning, right? You don't have to jump out the way of someone, you just have to be aware that they're coming and don't do anything stupid. So in my head, it's fair game. If you've got the pace, as long as you don't do anything stupid, go for it.
You can see the GT3 category tyres there. Everyone's basically in the same camp. Use the hard tyres, and I'm sure that if they are stopping twice through the day, which is very plausible indeed, that maybe they might do. Well, I guess they would just change all the tyres at the same time, wouldn't they, with the fuel? But I guess you could potentially do it where you double stim one set of tyres and then you change onto some softs or something later on. That's for the drivers to make the decision. I'm not smart enough, unfortunately, to work that out. The hypercar category, though, wildly different. We've got some softs out there, got some mediums out there, got Locke, who's the only one there out on the hards. Did also notice, speaking of RaceRoom drivers, does notice a certain Gianmarco Fiducci keeping an eye on things. Why is he not out there on the grid? That's what I want to know.
Not too late, Gianmarco. Just jump out, get a car, run at the pits. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
By the way, can I just say, I was so wrong earlier, because I said Latkovsky and Roche, based on their quali pace and how the race is going, I'm guessing they're on the same tyres. But actually, what it is doing is proving that, Roche is sticking with Latkovsky on mediums. 5 seconds off now. Okay, the gap has extended out, but now that we've seen that, I'm understanding it a little bit more. So maybe Roche's pace is actually slightly better than Latkovsky, and Latkovsky's trying to make the most of the soft tyre run. Now, if the hypercars, which we very much expect will happen, are going to make 2 stops, you might see that some drivers are experimenting with the soft for this first stint just to see if they can hang on, because then they can take softs for the rest of them. You might, however, see medium drivers doing the opposite and going, well, do you know what? I'm going to try and double stint the mediums here. So what we are going to see, Lewis, after the first pit stops is a massive shake-up in the order, a lot of confusion as we try and desperately work out who changed tyres, who didn't. Or is someone double stinting a medium? Is it new mediums? I'm not sure. So there's going to be the confusion. And there's only 8 minutes until that confusion, or we expect that confusion to begin. But also a shout out to Locke, because Locke's the only one on hard tyres and doing a pretty good job there in P8. He could potentially go all the way on those hards. We don't know. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on for sure, because tyre changes do cost you a lot of time in the pits.
Yeah, and obviously, like you say, as much as you're saying go all the way on the hards, that's not to say that he's not pitting during this race. Pit stops are definitely required,
yes.
Mostly down to the fuel consumption. Yes, you might not have to change tyres, but you will have to get some more fuel into the car. We look at Kratochvil going down the inside here on some of the GT traffic, but he was looking down the inside of Jonas Rydell as well, so was trying to go for a move there, but couldn't quite nail it. So we do suspect that quite a lot of the hypercar drivers will be coming into the pit lane in some time, and about 10 minutes or so from where we're currently running.
Kratochvili looking dangerous on the back of the BMW. He's closed in that gap. We obviously saw the spin earlier, and Rydell, losing the rear again there. So Kratochvili doing a good job to close those gaps back down. I say we saw the spin earlier. Of course, it was Fraunholz. We didn't see the spin of Kratochvili. So we assume it's a spin anyway based on the time loss, but that Porsche is definitely looking like he's got the pace. I was speaking to him earlier and he's unsure yet what's going to happen on strategy, so we'll have to wait and see, but was thinking, you know, some drivers maybe try and do mediums, but we're obviously seeing that a lot of drivers are actually thinking medium tyres. Whether we see single or double stints, we'll have to wait and see. But the thing is, at the moment, no matter what your strategy is, if you're 26, 27 seconds off the lead, trying to win the race from here is already a challenge, but it's of course not just about winning for these guys, it's about getting the best position you possibly can. And a podium is certainly on for so many cars in the hypercar field at the moment. I just don't know if anyone's really, with strategy even, going to have the pace to take it to Latkovsky and Roche, because they're just looking very, very strong out in front.
Yeah, they are certainly the force to be reckoned with in this, at least in this hypercar category, but still a long way to go in this race. And you know, for a 2-hour race, this is, as a special event goes here on RaceRoom, it is an endurance. You know, 2 hours. If you're doing fuel saving and tyre strategy, it's actually one thing. I remember having a conversation with not to throw a few names out there or anything, but John Hindhaugh, and he said, if you have to do.
Can you do the accent as well, Lewis? Sorry, do the accent as well.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am not getting this stream pulled from the internet because it would be that bad. But he said if you have to look after tyres and fuel, in his mind, that's an endurance race. And so in this case, 2 hours, you'll have to look after tyres and fuel. It's an endurance race.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've never really thought about it that way in terms of the definition, but it makes a lot of sense. And of course, you know, even though it looks quite simple for GT3s, for instance, with everyone on hard tyres, it doesn't mean it's simple, because hard tyres could mean, you know, using one set all the way through and therefore a shorter pit stop. It could also mean, you know, maybe taking new front tyres at the pit stop. I do believe that the fronts are wearing faster than the rears, so it's going to be more of a consideration for that. Will some drivers take all 4? Maybe, as you say, put on softs for the second stint. Will some drivers take 2 tyres, and who's going to take none? So as soon as, for me, there's strategy elements that involve thinking about tyres and fuel and you know, multiple stops, and that instantly for me becomes what I could call an endurance race. You know, if it's not just one stop for mandatory purposes and there's nothing to think about with fuel and tyres, then it's a bit different. But yeah, I do understand that definition.
It's, see, you were saying there about the hard tyres. I'm not gonna lie, I respect look for trying to. I understand why the GT3s are all on the hards, but everyone kind of running the same thing. It's fine. For me, I've always found if there's 3 sets of tyres to go on, for whatever reason, whenever there's a hard tyre, I can't go head around it. I'm always like, I'd always rather drive a softer compound slower than I would like to take the harder compound and try and push. I've never been able to vibe with it. But then, yeah, that's one of those ones where, as to why I didn't make it as a driver in sim racing.
I've got a few of those, and for me, you know, I would also not take the hard tyre, but it's not because of that, and that's a great strategy I've never thought about, where you just take a smaller compound and drive slower. For me, it's just I like to be able to attack my stints. I don't like the idea of driving around at, you know, 95% and just looking after your tyres, because for me, the enjoyment of a race comes from being able to push the car, from seeing drivers come up towards you. And for me, if I finish 7th by, you know, running hards all the way, going up the order and then slowly dropping back down, I'd much rather try and finish 7th by dropping back to 11th or 12th after the pit stops and having to pass 5 cars. So that's just more the maybe putting enjoyment before the actual race result. But for me, I always tend to, if it's close, if it's 50-50, I will go for a more aggressive strategy on a softer compound, but for different reasons to yourself, Lewis. Just one thing I want to quickly point out as well, as we see Grab really close to Fernholz. Senna's been dropping back a bit more from us, and he's now actually under pressure as well from the BMW behind. So Roerich is looking very strong. You can see they're only half a second for 5th and 6th in GT3, as well as this battle that we're seeing right now as they go either side of the Falcon Porsche. It's getting very spicy in both classes, and you also saw a couple getting very close up in front there. Was that, I think it was a battle for 4th with Riedel and Kratochvili. So there's 2 very, very close battles here for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th in the hypercar, and of course also 5th and 6th in GT3. Yeah,
a couple of BMWs in the fight there, of course. Like I say, you've got the BMW of Riedel, you've got Kratochvili in the Porsche, we've got the Lamborghini, and we've got another one of those BMWs. You can see there by the number that's marked there, there is no required stops, because you don't need to require the stops if everyone's going to have to stop. If you understand, there's no regulation for it, but you just know that everyone's going to stop. But basically, green Green circle around a number. Well, I mean, you can take a wild stab in the dark. That is how many pit stops they've done. Vandenbroek and Traxion, the only drivers on this field that have been into the pit lane to service the car. Unfortunately, Gasbommish, a fair way down already in this race, a lap or so down, has yet to take a visit into the pit lane, but still was circulating as we ride on board with Traxion. And you really get a vibe as to how fast they fly down that start-finish straight. It's crazy.
It is indeed, and you could almost see like the thinking process. The cogs began to turn in the brain there of Kratoshvili, because he was thinking, do I go for it? Do I go for it? No, I'll stay behind. But you know, the slipstream begins to take effect, and it's very, very inviting to go for a lunge down there into turn one. You could even see the rear stepping out under braking. These guys are running brake bias and everything very, very focused on corner entry and getting oversteer inducing on the car. You can see just how the car's balancing on the way into the corners. These drivers aren't setting the car up for safety, let's put it that way. Which could also explain why we've seen a few mistakes here and there. But yeah, Kratoshvili all over the back of Riedel, looking very, very competitive. The BMW struggling a little bit, Lewis, but we're heading now towards the first pit stops, as you say. We've seen one stop. We've got a minute to go before we reach the 40-minute mark. And now, if you're doing a two-stop strategy, of course, that means that around about 40 minutes in, if you can make it to 40 minutes, you can make it on two stops. And I believe these cars should be able to make it slightly longer than 40 minutes, maybe anywhere up to 50 minutes. It's a little bit more confusing than just fuel load, of course, in these hypercars. You also have virtual energy to consider. Now, virtual energy is essentially a virtual fuel tank. So it means that you might not physically run out of fuel and the car might not stop on the circuit, but the virtual energy tank still runs down and you still can't let it hit zero because you will get a massive penalty. As we now see right on 40 minutes, Kratoshvili into the pits. So he's going to be looking for a little bit of an undercut here potentially on Riedel in fourth.
Yeah, don't hate that at all. I like the look of that. Sometimes coming into the pit lane early, try and take the advantage and split this race into even thirds, 40 minutes apiece. Not necessarily a bad thing. I do understand why some drivers will push it a little bit further and try and take it to maybe 45 minutes, and that means that you're in the pit lane for a shorter time on the final stop. There is some battling happening around the circuit. We head back to Arthur Gras at the moment, who has Franhals rather directly behind, who's trying to find some way through. They've been battling a fair amount across this lap. It's a great battle, but all I'd be thinking if I'm Franhals is, should I stop now to maybe jump you to or at least do whatever Gras doesn't do? Do the opposite.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But you might find that you want to get the move done on circuit. You're happy in the slipstream. You're comfortable following. So there's a few different ways this could turn out. And of course, Gras might be looking to do the reactive pit as well. So as you say, do whatever he doesn't do. We'll have to wait and see though what happens on this lap. Now, guys, take a look at the order right now and try and capture that in your brain, because the order's going to be shaken up a lot after these pit stops. And obviously, different people taking different tires, not taking tires, it's going to completely mix up the field. So try and take a mental note right now of where everyone's at, because it's going to get difficult and messy as we see 3 BMWs in a big line, blue, red and yellow, heading down towards turn 5. And a bit of a move. He's actually looking to the inside there. That is, of course, the battle for P5. So that was heading into Interlagos, turn 4, sorry, I think I said turn 5, as now head towards that middle sector up to Ferradura. Very tricky double right-hander. Looks like he's pulled back in for now, and Senna will remain in P5, but you've also got a third car in the mix here, but not quite looking to take advantage. So we're now on board with Olesiuk Ayuso in the BMW. So you've got Senna, Roerich, and of course the car we're on board with right now. Great battle. Now, I was about to say I'd be thinking of an undercut. It's GT3, Lewis. These guys might well be trying to make it all the way to their remarks, so completely ignore that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, there's a few different ideas as to where you can go on strategy. You can do the two-stop strategy in the GT3s, and some would say it's potentially faster. I'd say if you've got the tyres and fuels, we right on board with Olesiuk Ayuso, and there was a bit of a mistake there, but also Lamborghini down the inside. So fair play as Roche, by the way, into the pit lane from second in the hypercars. But yeah, if I'm in the GT3s, I'd be treating it as a pretty simple one-stop race and trying to go the distance on that, and just split the race directly in half once the hypercars go the opposite route and try and split it into thirds. Into the pit lane as we see Gras also in, and obviously dragging into the pit lane the Lamborghini behind. So the two of them coming in at the same time, even though Franhals could have pitted a lap early to try and go for the up and under. Fair enough. Rebello also in the pit lane along with Roche. We've got 2 cars out on the circuit from that top group, being Cody Nikolakovsky, the race leader, and Jonas Riedel as well.
Yeah, Latkovsky obviously on the softs. We do expect a tyre change from Latkovsky unless he double stints softs, and I don't think that's going to be doable. We'll have to wait and see. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this all plays out now. Latkovsky looking to make the most of the pace. You can see using all of the road. It's actually a quieter track right now, so it's quite nice. A little bit of fresh air for everyone out there who's bounding around. You can see lots of hypercars coming in. So yeah, around about 45 minutes in seems to be the stint length for the hypercars, but clearly it can be extended if you want to. And Latkovsky, in fact, going for another one. So it looks like maybe up to 50 minutes is doable. We'll have to just wait and see when Latkovsky peels in, but we're still, to be fair, not quite at the 45-minute mark, so maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. You can see here, Fraunholtz still stationary as one of the other cars pulls out. I believe was that was Rubello, was it, in the other Lamborghini, or perhaps a different? Yeah, I think it was Rubello pulling out of the pit. So Fraunholtz dropping time, but now we see him leave, and let's just see where this all. There's a car stopping. Is it? Is that a? Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That is Fraunholtz. Sorry, that's that is one of the other Lamborghinis who was trying to leave the pit lane. It was Rubello, who you were saying. What an bizarre issue.
Now, I don't know if he's maybe not taking the fuel. I mean, the car's just stopped. I don't know if it's an engine issue. We'll have to wait and see if the engine starts up again. But obviously, he had power to get out of the pit lane. It's just coming down the hill. It's come to a stop. Unfortunately, we can't work that out from what we have on our images at the moment. But a disaster for Rubello, who's having a great race, has to be said, Lewis. So that's a real shame. Riedel, by the way, into the pits from P2 in the BMW. So we'll see how that all unfolds. Looks like Roche will, of course, retake that position. And at the moment, it's Creed in the BMW up to P4. So the highest spot, of course, in the race so far, but yet to pit.
Yeah, indeed. Probably will be pitting fairly sharpish. Will Cody Latkovsky take a visit into the pit lane anytime soon as we head back to the fight for fifth position? As we've got Rorik, we had the Spanish driver as well directly behind in the Ayuso. We're riding on board now with our race leader, who is into the pit lane. Will Cody Latkovsky rescind the race lead over to Roche? He was looking dominant, but we do suspect there might be a fairly longer stop here, courtesy of the tyre change. Whether Roche did also change the tyres or not, we'll be able to find out. I do also believe that car there that's currently pointing in an odd direction in the pit lane, that is a retirement from the Lamborghini of Rubello.
Yeah, real shame. Obviously, something's gone wrong in the pit lane, which is never what you want to see, but at least it wasn't an accident out on circuit. It just seems like the equivalent of a mechanical. But we don't know if that's a fuel-related issue, virtual energy, or just something else. There's so many different things that can cause you to stop, unfortunately. But it's going to ruin Rubello's first special event in this new era of Race Room. Meanwhile, you can see Latkovsky in the top right. We've got Roche coming around the final corner. Now, I don't know if Roche took new tyres or not. He started on mediums. That means there's a chance that Roche will double stint the mediums based on what we know. And it looks like that is the case because Latkovsky is still stationary, obviously changing over the softs. I think based on this, Lewis, unless something's gone wrong, I'm going to say that Roche is double stinting the mediums right now. The question is, what tyres will Latkovsky take? Because if he takes mediums, will he go for a double stint now until the end of the race? There's so much that can still play out. But unfortunately for us, in terms of a spectator's point of view, that lead battle is just opened out for this next stint.
Yeah, indeed, it's opening out massively. Cody Latkovsky remains stationary in pit lane. The gap has grown to more than 30 seconds. I think now he's rolling, now he's out of pit lane. So I think that stationary time was different to around 30 seconds because it was, what, 5 seconds coming in and now it's 20-odd seconds coming out.
Yeah, problem for Riedel as well. Riedel's back in the pits, so I do wonder if that's maybe, I don't want to speculate too much, it could be something like a drive-through, maybe there's an issue with the fuel, but Riedel back in the pits again, having just pitted on the previous lap, so disaster for the BMW driver. Yeah,
indeed, which means it's now Porsche, Lamborghini in that top group, and we can see there the change. We do still, I think we need Creed into the pit lane in that BMW, yet to make a stop, as is Gaspar Misch. So those two drivers that currently sit in 5th and 8th are yet to come into the pit lane. There's a little bit of contact here in the battle for 5th position, which has allowed Lasea Ayuso to come through into 6th position on Senna.
Yeah, I mean, Senna was in 4th heading into that first corner. It was a nice move down the inside. Very, very close action heading into turn 1. There a little bit of contact between the two from Rorych and Senna. But then, as you say, Lasea Ayuso, to be honest, I don't think he meant that. I think he's missed his braking point slightly because it was quite a kind of bold move down the inside. There was a lot of contact, and I don't believe that was intentional. So it might have been that Ayuso tried to brake late. you don't want to say he's missed his braking point, because potentially it was the cars in front being side by side that caused it. But either way, it ended up in a pretty messy move. But they seem to have gotten away with it. Hopefully there's not too much damage there. And Senna drops back to 6th, while Ayuso climbs up to 5th. And Rorych, of course, no, sorry, 5th, 6th, and 7th. My apologies.
There was confirmation on your time screen, by the way, that Rebello has retired. Also, you can see there, bro, as you pointed out earlier, the German driver also retired. So we've got 2 retirements from this race, 1 from the hypercar category, 1 from the GT3s. We're about 50 minutes in, and it's Roche who now is your race leader. Code Nikolakowski switched tyre compound as well. It has gone from the soft and onto the mediums. Might be trying to take those all the way to the checkered flag, and so the 30 seconds that was effectively gained to his pit stop time could be gained back on Roche when it comes to the final stint of the race. But then you'd suspect that potentially our current race leader would have a slight pace advantage when it comes to that final stint of the race if he goes the opposite route and goes into the softs for that final stint.
Exactly what you say. So this is all based on predictions. We don't know what they're doing strategy-wise, but if that is the case, if they're basically mirroring each other, what we'll see is Latkovsky was 28 seconds behind out the pits. Latkovsky's on new tyres. Roche, we believe, is on second stint medium. So that gap should come down further. And if that's the case, Latkovsky's on track. If that's not the case, I think Roche is looking good. Because, of course, Latkovsky was leading by about 5 seconds beforehand. If Latkovsky closes more on Roche, it's then going to come down to that final stint where we could see potentially Roche on new softs and Latkovsky on used mediums. So it could concertina up brilliantly here, Lewis. We're going to have to keep an eye on the gaps. But based on speculation alone, of course, we could, and I often am proven completely wrong, but I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye to see how much that gap fluctuates from the original 28, 29 seconds.
Indeed, got the battle of the damaged front here as Hume is trying to make a move down the inside to get up into the into 15th position. You can see damage on the front end. I believe it's Stahl who's in the Falcon Porsche, and you can certainly say 14th position certainly is the case. Damage on his front, damage on the front of the Ferrari as well. They have been in the in the battles this evening.
They certainly have, and I mean, there's been a bit of contact out there. To be honest, Lewis, from what I've seen, the driving standards, I mean, there's always going to be the odd incident here and there, especially when drivers are pushing the limits, but they seem to have been pretty strong. You know, I've been very impressed with what I'm seeing, and I'm probably going to curse it right now, but the Ferrari is looking a little bit worse for wear, has to be said. We obviously haven't seen much of the Ferrari in terms of what happened with incidents. I did see the spin earlier, but I don't know if he made contact heavily with the wall. It might have just been from that. Either way, Stahl looking defensive on the inside, and there's the Ferrari spinning around, and that was a close call with a couple of hypercars coming through, but thankfully everyone seemed to get away unscathed. The Ferrari, though, dropping more time, so really struggling with the rear end of that car, Lewis.
Yeah, I believe that might have been Traxion that was the one that coming through there and nearly making the contact. Here's Arthur Graf trying to get to the outside of Gaspar Misch. Misch yet to come into the pit lane. I think he's trying to go for something aggressive, which would make sense because Gaspar Misch is not normally a particularly slow driver in the RaceRoom ranked races. Now, is he trying to extend the fuel to maybe do something absolutely crazy and try a one-stop? That's surely not possible in this car.
It's not, because especially with virtual energy and things, I just don't believe it's in any way possible. But, I mean, I can be proven wrong. I just don't expect that to be the case, especially when you see drivers pitting between 40 and 45 minutes. But, yeah, we'll just have to see. And you can see Kratoshvili on the back of Riedel, who we saw these two close together earlier. Riedel, I believe, came down the pits twice, and I don't know if it was a drive-through, maybe, because he didn't seem to spend long in the pits the second time.
Yeah.
Still holding on to P5, so it could well have been a drive-through penalty for Riedel. And that would suggest to me, Lewis, and especially given the lofty position after the first stop, that Riedel is maybe double stinting tyres, and that would mean, as you can see now, Kratoshvili on his new tyres should have an advantage, but doesn't quite get the move done there. He's going to now have the outside run down the hill. There's more contact between the two of them. It's getting argy-bargy out there. I did say earlier on RaceRoom, you can do a little bit of door banging, even in these cars, and get away with it, which is great for us. Obviously, these drivers, though, will be heated behind the wheel right now, but gets the move done eventually, and that is now P5 for Kratoshvili, who's running very aggressively in this race and seems to be sticking to the soft tyre strategy, absolutely going for it, has good pace, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out at the end.
There was definitely a big slide from Bergqvist as well. Directly had a lot of smoke going through Bico de Pato. Unfortunately for Gold, there was also a bit of drama, but Kratoshvili, like I say, having the pace over the BMW there, courtesy of the tyres. I do believe, like I say, it would be a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And Alex Mosen has also gone for a bit of a spin in 4th place. What I was going to say, This is probably one of the easiest circuits that I've raced at for speeding in the pit lane. Such a difficult pit entry to get right because you want to make the most of it. There is Mosen, who was the only driver in the top 5 that wasn't a BMW. Unfortunately, no longer remains in that top 5, and so it's all BMW at the front of the GT3 field.
Yeah, real shame for Mosen. He was having a great race, it has to be said, in that Mercedes. But still plenty to fight for, of course. Just want to give my, every so often I want to check in and just say, well done Ribeiro and well done Conti, because those two, in a class of their own in GT3, Ribeiro specifically, 20 seconds out in front, won't be getting much airtime today, and you can understand why with a 20-second lead, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve huge plaudits, because it's been an incredible run so far, super fast, super consistent, and Lewis, in a field as competitive as this, with 18 of the best GT3 drivers in Race Room all turning up for the special event, to have anything like a 20-second lead, and that's not on strategy, that's on pure pace, is just mega impressive. So great effort from Ribeiro, who we're now looking at in the number 50 car, and yeah, looking good for the win at the moment. Still a long way to go, plenty can happen. Gontier doing a great job in P2 as well, and all of the excitement's coming really in that battle for P3, which is now really a battle for P4, because Shielddrake is checked out, and it's Rorich and of course Olisei Kayuso who are fighting for that P4 now. And yeah, we saw Mosen spun out earlier, we've seen Senna drop back too, so a few dropping out of contention, but not too far away.
One of the most important things always with a race like this, when it comes to a big lead like that, and that's either whether it is the actual lead in the case of Ribeiro, or just the lead over Shielddrake in the terms of Gontier, the worst thing that you can do is get complacent, is not really think about anything. Yeah, you get in the rhythm and you forget certain things, like where you're braking for a certain corner. You're not really paying attention to those coming through in lap traffic. Potentially the worst mistake to make of all would be to not come into the pit lane to get some fuel into the car. I have done that. It is painfully embarrassing.
Haven't we all? Probably not, actually. Probably not everyone's done that.
Have you not done it?
I've done it. Well, yeah, you know what? I don't even know if I have, but I probably have. I've done just about everything you could do. I've definitely crashed into the pit lane entry and put it on the roof, as I'm just going to interrupt myself here because I'm talking nonsense while there's a great battle going on for P4 between Rorich and Oliseyuk. So let's see what happens here. The BMW going to look to the outside. This is a classic move around here. So you kind of head to the outside, carry a bit more speed, less steering angle, then cut back across for the slipstream. And now we'll see Ayuso going to the inside. He's not going to make a move here, though. In fact, he's going to stick behind Rorich. So I think he seems quite content there, Lewis, at the moment, does Oliseyuk Ayuso in P5. Just sitting behind Rorich, applying the pressure. He's not doing anything crazy. We did see, of course, the unfortunate incident earlier on with a big bit of contact. But it doesn't look like he's trying to assert himself too much on this P4. We'll come back to me being on my roof on pit lane entry another time. I mean, it's not that important.
No, I was literally all I was thinking. I'm like, what circuit was it?
Well, it was one of those short ovals in a street stock that's about 15 seconds long, so I can't even remember.
Right.
I somehow hit one of those, the barrels full of water and put it on the roof under safety car on pit lane entry. So yeah.
Which is interesting, because one of my first memories in the world of sim racing of you, Mr.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you know exactly what race I'm talking about. No, not even Not Hill.
Oh God, there's another one?
I distinctly remember a Touring Pro Series virtual touring master, whatever the championship was called, Group 5 Salzburg Ring. I remember you being on your roof at T1.
Yeah, I was on pole as well. I was on pole, so no, I thought there's a video on YouTube of me in a Clio crashing into pit lane entry at Knock Hill while trying to take the straight and instantly retiring. So I thought that's where you were going, but apparently I told you it happened a lot to me, so it's probably happened. Right. I want to take it back to this race for a second though, because you said the pit lane entry is tricky at Interlagos. Basically, most pit lane entries at circuits tend to start around about the last corner, and you get a kind of a natural slowing down that happens, and then you've got a little burst of acceleration, then you're on the brakes, right? Not every pit lane entry, of course, but the kind of average pit lane entry, as we see the Lamborghini coming through on the BMWs, might provide an opportunity here for Ayuso, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Interlagos, you've got such a fast run up the hill that your reference point for pit lane entry has to be created by yourself. You have to have the awareness to know when to brake, how quickly to take that sort of chicane that is the pit lane entry, and it puts the onus really on the driver rather than the track forcing you down in speed, which makes it a lot easier. So I understand why things go wrong here at Interlagos. I understand why drivers make mistakes on the way into the pits, and speed, it's very easy done. So just wanted to get that out there before we find it and remember too many other instances of me on my roof.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking of many more. But no, to be fair, it's not the worst pit entry in the world. I've got a short list for worst pit entries and worst pit exits. This doesn't appear on either of them, so that's fine. You know, but it's a tricky one. It's just a difficult one. It's all.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of there's a weird, it's a chicane to try and slow the cars down, but it actually creates a very high-speed, dangerous chicane. And we're only 2 minutes, by the way, away from the halfway point. So these GT3 cars now, as we see, this is the best opportunity now. Ayuso's going to go to the inside. This is going to be the move that we've been waiting on Rorych. He's got the straight line speed. Does he have it under braking, though? Rorych is going to be brave around the outside, leaves the room. Looks like they're going to run through side by side, so it's not over in the slightest, but great stuff round the outside of turn 2 for Ayuso, and Rorych has to yield, tried his best to hold the outside line, but just couldn't quite get it back in time, and obviously had a narrower line into the next part of the Senna S's. So that move happens. There's a switch position for P4 and 5, but as we were saying, Lewis, we're potentially only a couple of minutes away from the first pit stops for these GT3s, and you know, pit stops can change everything, so maybe this can be undone, but I'm sure Ayuso will be delighted to get that move done. Clean, great to see, and just great driving from both.
Yeah, it was a really nice overtake once again, proving it takes 2 to tango, and 2 did indeed tango there. We can see Traxion coming through, and we'll make the move there in that Porsche, of course, in that hypercar category. Speaking of the hypercar category, we are approaching, like you say, 1 hour into this race. We are expecting a few cars in the pit lane, all of the GT3s per example. Also, Gaspar Misch, I don't believe, has stopped yet, and whether he's going to get a good race or not, a good result or not, I think one thing that he's determined with is he's doing the one-stop strategy, which is mental, by the way, in that category. I know it says 1 minute and 50 seconds left to go at the top of your screen. That is not the case. Do not panic. We still have an hour's more of racing to come here in the 2 hours of Interlagos. And it is Roche leading the race. Code Nikola Latkovsky's closed down a fair few seconds as Thomas Gontier is into the pit lane from 2nd position in the GT3 category.
I'm absolutely sure that Misch hasn't pitted. I mean, he's only 1 minute and 28 off the lead, so I think you're absolutely right. But this seems impossible. I really don't know. I don't know if I've missed something, but
nice.
I'm struggling to work out how that's possible. Because surely, if you could go that long, some drivers would have, you know, pushed a bit further. I don't know. Maybe you said it yourself. The pace has maybe not been what you'd expect from Misch, so that would suggest huge fuel saving. But I'm just not convinced. You can see there he's not been in according to the gantry. So yeah, I think you might be absolutely right. I'm just absolutely astonished.
It's one of those ones. I think the reason why no one's doing it is for the simple fact of it's not fast.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge.
But sometimes you just go into the race and you're like, do you know what? I'm going to try and do something else, just so at least there's a talking point. Yeah. Especially if you're not that confident on speed. You know, you just go, right, well, I'm going to do this anyway. And at least then,
you're right.
Then we'll talk about it.
You can try something different for sure, but that means that you're essentially, and we still haven't seen him pit, and we're past the hour mark now. That means essentially you're trying to save 25% of a fuel tank versus everyone else. That's a lot of time off throttle, but I'm here for it. It sounds like a great, you know, racing game challenge to see if you can extend the stint. It should be a scenario mode where that's the case from Misch. So we'll have to wait and see what happens if he eventually does pull into the pits from P8. Locke as well, the other person on a different strategy, but he's been through the pits twice, has the BMW driver. So that hard tire strategy, it's hard to know if it was working because we don't know what position, of course, he would have been in had he not taken the hard tire. So it's very difficult for us to be able to kind of gauge that. Other than looking maybe at qualifying, and Locke wasn't right at the top, so it's tricky to know if it's going to help, but unfortunately, as you can see on the tower, it looks like he's been through the pits twice, so potentially a speeding penalty as well.
So what you're saying is we need to get some like in-game challenges, which maybe, you know, Gaspar Misch can help us make, you know, like going that far on like a set of tires or that far on fuel, in-game challenges and stuff. You could give them a name, could be hit or miss.
Yeah. I mean,
so that was a tough one.
We've got less than an hour to go, and I'm wondering if you just said, right, that's second half's begun, I can pull out another one.
They every now and then they just come out.
Pits,
constantly.
sorry, interrupting. We've got a pit stop finally. So in comes Misch. I'm trying so desperately not to say it again about missing the mark, but we'll not even go there. No, we're going to look at the Ferrari instead. The damaged Ferrari, who's had a bit of a mare in the last few laps, has to be said. We've seen a couple of incidents for the Ferrari. A spin there. There's Misch in the pit box, getting the fuel. And yeah, can I just say, well done. I don't know if it's the best strategy. In fact, I know it's not the best strategy. But to make it an hour and 3 minutes on one tank is mighty, mighty impressive. They'll be helping the selling Porsches on their fuel economy there, even if it's not selling it and winning the race. But thankfully for them, there's 2 Porsches out in front. And actually, on that subject, Latkovski, the gap wasn't coming down, and I was going to mention it, but right now, Latkovski's got it down to 24 seconds, so it is coming down, which is what I was expecting in the first place. Maybe not fast enough, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. So at this rate, I think Latkovski will be leading after the next stops if they go as expected.
Just glad we saw Gaspar in the pit lane. Obviously quite a big moment for the race. Didn't want to miss that one. But still, we look back into the battle for... I'm going to keep going with this one. Third place, Traxion and Fran Holtz. Of course, their Lambo versus Lambo battle for the final step on the podium. But do not count out Kutachvili, who's closing in a fair amount. Like I say, we'll be knocking at the door for this podium battle at some point in the near future. And you're absolutely right, Cody Latkovski is starting to close down on the race lead of Roche, who's potentially around 15 minutes away from bringing that car into the pit lane, sticking it onto the soft tyres, and then sending it all the way to the checkered flag. The thing is, could stop a little bit earlier. Potentially that gap's now come down to 20 seconds, lost 3 seconds here because he's trying to navigate that Porsche going through all that. That was Roche. That was your race leader, and getting held up a little bit by Ayuso, getting held up a little bit by Rurik, and just probably a little bit of frustration at this point in the race.
And it's crucial. Every single second counts at this point. And we know it goes, to and fro in terms of the traffic and how much it can affect you. But as a driver, you don't necessarily notice it when it goes well. You do notice it when it goes wrong. So it's all about keeping a cool head. But yeah, a bit of frustration there. Fernholz, very, very close now to the back of Traxion, as we're saying, for P3, the battle of the Lamborghinis. In fact, he's going to look to the inside. It looks like Traxion missed his apex slightly, and that opens the door for Fernholz, who actually tags the back of him. Unfortunately, it's a spin, more contact for the Lamborghinis. Yeah, I think that the door was kind of half open. Fernholz just a little bit later on the brakes. There was clearly no intention there for contact, but unfortunately, just carrying the brakes in a little further into the corner than Traxion. So around he went, and more contact, maybe a bit of damage. That ends that battle prematurely. And of course, in that, Kratosvili heads up to P3. So the Porsche driver on a charge onto the podium now, and we are back to an all Porsche top 3.
Yeah, that was a crash that we'd seen coming for a little while. Of course, the tough fight there between Fernholz and Traxion now allows Kutachvili to work his way through, taking a very tight line here. I thought he was going to come into pit lane there, but he's just trying to break the slipstream of the German directly behind him. Can he do so as well up into the first corner? Roche is round. Our race leader is around. A yellow flag has come out for our race leader in the hypercar category, and he's stuck on a curb.
What a nightmare for Roche. So something's gone wrong. He's tried to rejoin, and you can see he's desperately trying to get off the curb, and you're about to see Latkovski come through and take the lead here. So there goes Latkovski. In fact, this is amazing. That is fantastic. So Latkovski pushes Roche off of the curb because he was stuck and he was beached. What amazing sportsmanship. The two fighting for the win, but clearly wanting a race. And round of applause. Nikola Latkovski. Really unfortunate for Roche in the first place. We didn't see how the spin happened, but we saw the predicament he was in, and that's just brilliant, Lewis.
Yeah, that was 100% the right thing to do for Latkovski. Obviously, he could have left him there and gone, right, well, the win's definitely mine. But I actually kind of think that because of that, 20 seconds all going in that one moment, that click of a finger, it will look down the inside here and the battle will begin for the race lead. But of course, those ridiculously hot rear tyres, especially on Roche's car as he was spinning up the wheels trying to get off that sausage curb. This is huge, huge advantage to Cody Latkovski having closed up that 20 seconds, and the confidence has been knocked for Roche as well. Here comes a look to the outside coming into turn 4 as we get to the end of the Reta Aposta. It's going to be a look back, up and under before we get down to the Ferradura from Cody Latkovski. The Macedonian not finding a way through on Roche just yet. He looks to the outside of the Ferradura. He's going to go full send to try and do it around the outside, but Roche is going to hold firm.
Stayed outside the Lewis. He managed to keep his nose in there. Unfortunately, it's not going to work on here, but he's going to have the undercut. So Latkovski back to the inside. That becomes the outside. Looks like Roche has got it under control, but as you say, those rear tyres are probably still hot. We do think that Latkovski is on newer tyres as well, so that's also going to help. And it just shows how quickly things can change, Lewis. I mean, I was saying that unless that gap was coming down, I was really thinking Roche was in the driving seat for this one, based on what we expect to happen in the pits, but that has just thrown it wide open. I don't think it's over, don't get me wrong, but they are so close on pace. It's certainly nearly over, and Latkovski is going to help his case dramatically here as he heads down the inside through the flat-out kinks, turns 14 and 15. I don't think there's much Roche can do about this unless he pulls back into the slipstream. Latkovski's got the confidence, the tyres, potentially, at the moment, just the trust in the car, and we're going to see Roche look to the inside. In fact, Roche is going to try and hold it down the inside, but Latkovski seems to get it sealed, and that is a proper change for the lead. Latkovski through, Roche struggling, but still in the race, crucially.
Yeah, both these drivers have made one pit stop. Pace advantage for Cody Nikolakowski. We do believe, like you said, he is on fresher tyres by the tune of around 25 odd laps fresher tyres compared to Roche directly behind. He now makes contact with one of the BMWs as well. That might have been a Yuso, and that was a bit messy indeed. And yes, Rorik's been able to come through in the third.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're quite lucky to get away from that unscathed, but there was a change of position. As you say, Rorich down the inside. Looks like he's going back for it again. Is Ayuso. We just saw it in the background there down the inside, and he's made it stick. So Rorich had third temporarily. Ayuso straight back on it, down the inside, got it done. As we see, the battle for the lead's not over as well in the top right. It's all kicking off here. You've got the battle of the Beamers in GT3, the battle of the Porsches in Hypercar, and thankfully we've got this picture-in-picture situation right now, so we're not missing a thing. But yeah, that was a close call, wasn't it, Lewis? And I'm glad that they made it out relatively unscathed.
It's gone from calm talk about John Munro's sim racing adventures to all-out battle here at Interlagos. Great changes for the race league, great battles as well for the podium position. Stahl, unfortunately, has had a bit of a problem in the GT3 category. Did also notice in the hypercars there was also a little bit of problems for Franholz, who's dropped back down into seventh position, allowing Trotsville to have a big gap in the battle for third position. He's obviously 8 seconds clear of Shachan, and the Lamborghini he was battling with is no longer a part of that fight. This is further down in that hypercar category. BMW on BMW. Rydell running in 5th position after Gra there running in 6th.
Absolutely, and just on the GT3 stuff as well, you may be confused if the order is very different to what it was 10 minutes ago. Just a reminder, this is the pit stop phase for GT3, so there's a lot of cars out of position right now. As round the outside goes Gra, that's not going to happen. Off onto the runoff area, very late on the brakes was Arthur, but managed to get it stopped safely enough without any contact, so that's absolutely fine. Live to fight another day. Riedel staying in 5th, or in fact making his way up to 5th, if I'm not mistaken. I can't even remember which one was in front. There was so much going on at the same time. But the GT3 field a bit out of kilter at the moment. That will obviously calm down once more pit stops have been made. So don't panic if your favourite driver is not in the position they were in at the start of the pit lane cycle about 10 minutes ago.
Exactly, and I'm surprised by how far into the race some of the GT3s are going, because again, you could split it directly in half and run the easy numbers, but it does seem as though they're trying to push it a little bit into the race, some of them, and maybe that could change their tyre structure. They are pretty much entirely running on the hard compounded tyre. What if they're trying to go a little bit long to maybe switch tyre compounds? Most likely not. If they've been running that comfortable speed on the hards, most likely, if you're, for example, Ribeiro, the race leader, you're going to stay on those hard components. You're going to change, obviously, what tyre you're on, because you don't want to run these, so you're not double stick these tyres at the end, I'd assume. But you are just going to get a fresh set of boots onto the car in that pit stop. Really still tight for the battle for the race lead. Really tight in this fight for 5th position between Rydell and Gra. Gra's directly behind, and he's closing up as they work their way through some of the traffic into turn 1 again. There's contact, and Jonas Rydell is around at the opening corner.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure there was contact at the start, but based on the BMW going round, I think there may have been. We're not going to see a replay. They were very close together, Lewis. Honestly, I didn't think Gra had gone in there too hot, but it was very, very close. So can't confirm, but it seems likely that Riedel was spun around there. Just unfortunate. Riedel struggling for the tyres, I think. Gra's got a clear grip advantage at this stage in the race, trying to make it count, and unfortunately that's not going to make the tyre life any better for Riedel, who is now, of course, going to have hot rears and is dropped back further. Meanwhile, this is another battle. I think this is Mish versus Creed for P9, so he's going to have to extend the fuel in this one as well, Lewis, so I wonder if we're going to see Mish letting this one go to try and save 25% of a fuel tank per lap.
Yeah, he is in for a real test of endurance. Behind that, you can see the battle for the race lead between Roche and Latkovsky, who is our race leader at present. Like I said, there's been some great battles now forming around this field. Only 48 minutes left to go in the race, so time is ticking down, and time for Rush to maybe do something in the pit lane to maybe hold on. I don't know if he can or anything. He can't take these tyres again.
No, I highly doubt it, because then Latkovsky, I think, is going to have the advantage. I don't think, based on what I've heard, that you're going to be able to triple stint a set of mediums. It might be doable. And oh, that's not going to help, is it? Roche getting the rear end out. Of course, it's not going to help Lewis that he's had a few incidents in this stint, and that will damage, of course, the tyres. I think he's got to do what I believe the original plan was most likely to be, which is take a new set of softs for this last run. Now, Litkowski, on the other hand, might be planning to double stint the mediums here, but in the position he's in, because he's had this huge break with a 20-second gain on Roche, maybe he matches him. If Litkowski also takes new tyres, then they're going to be on equal tyres. Although it would make a lot more sense for Litkowski now to just make the use of that double stinted mediums and save potentially 30 seconds. That's a big lead he's going to have. So this is all complete speculation. I might be proven wrong on all of this, but Litkowski's definitely in the driving seat. I just don't think it's over, because based on all the evidence I have in front of me, I do believe that Roche has got a pace advantage here. Not much, but ever so slightly. In the same scenario, I think Roche has got the pace advantage.
Also depends on one thing that we haven't necessarily fully accounted for, which is what are Cody Nikolakowski's intentions here? Obviously to win the race, that was very clear. But might be sat there, it's a Saturday afternoon, thinking I've had a great day. Maybe I want a battle. I don't want to just run away with this. He pushed his rival off of the curb, and he's not exactly ran away from this despite closing down by 8 seconds. I don't think Litkowski's pushing at 110% at the moment. And if he does make it, he could do the change for tyres and think, do you know what, I just want to have a good battle. So there is that. Think about whether he will or not, but it's all a bit of fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. Sorry, just to cover this, Traxion is dropping back. I don't know if he's in the pit lane right now, potentially, but he is dropping down the order of hypercars from that top 4, and it is a pit stop. So this is the first of our final second stops for the hypercars. So Traxion not having a problem, thankfully, just taking on some fuel. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they're clearly in this for fun. There is a lot at stake to try and win the first ever, not the first ever special event, but the first special event of this new race room ranked era. However, it is also a lot of fun. You can tell that by the fact that Litkowski was out there, of course, helping Roche. So they're going to want to battle, and that would make it a lot of fun. One thing I am going to point out, though, Kratosvili, only 35 seconds off the lead. We've seen that if you can extend the tyre stint, potentially you can save 30 seconds or so in a pit stop, and we know that Kratosvili's got great pace. Is there a chance that we see him double stint his tyres, the front two take new tyres, and then maybe there's only a few seconds in it for the lead? I don't think at this point it's feasible that Kratosvili can really fight for the win, but he might be thereabouts and be able to capitalise on any mistakes from the lead too.
Well, I think what we were seeing, mostly based on Litkowski versus Roche on the opening pit stops, is that I think the pit stop gain/loss is around the 30-odd second margin, right? Now, let's say, for example, like you say, if Roche comes in, he's going to change his tyres most likely. So he'll be around where Kratosvili will be if he doesn't change tyres, the Czech driver. But then if Litkowski is going, oh, well, I want to have a battle, and then he does change the tyres as well, he may inadvertently be around someone who he's not expecting to be around. If he knows that he's going to go into this race, he's going to battle with Roche, and that's what he wants to do, fair enough. But you're absolutely right. Do not necessarily count out Kratosvili if they are going to play those kinds of cards. I'm not saying that is what Litkowski is going to do. Obviously, we'll find out in 5 or so minutes' time when they actually do come into the pit lane. But I'll say there's still a fair amount more to battle here. And either way, I do think Roche might have a little bit of pressure coming in from the third of those Porsches, who you're absolutely right, has had some good speed. Remember, he did drop back from third position after an issue. And still was able to work his way back into it courtesy of strategy.
Exactly, and that's the thing. If the front two are distracted by each other, as we see, that looks like leaving the pit lane at the moment is our P2 runner in GT3. Not P2, oh no, in fact, no, that was Ribeiro leaving the pits. We saw Ribeiro come into the pits. Sorry, I thought we were seeing Ayuso there, but Ayuso now comes in. So Ribeiro's back out of the pits, and I was going to say, where is he compared to Gauthier? Gauthier is still a minute back according to the timing. I'm not sure if that's correct, but if that is the case, then Ribeiro is just extended his lead so much further with that pit stop. I do wonder if that is the case, whether Gauthier took tyres and Ribeiro didn't, because for it to be a minute of a gap is big. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But it is Gauthier third, Shieldrick fourth, Roric fifth. So things are settling now. We have to see where Ayuso comes out of the pits versus Roric in fifth. And of course, Mosin in sixth, who's only 3 seconds further back in the Mercedes. So great battles still happening all the way through the GT3 field. That battle for P4, 5, 6, 7, Lewis throughout the whole race has been great. That's a close call as Roche dives down the inside of the GT3 Porsche. through the Senna S's and still continues to chase our race leader Latkovsky. But there you go. So Gontier passed Ayuso, who's in the pit lane, of course. Ayuso will, I think, is Ayuso coming out the pits now, based on the timing? May well have jumped up to P3. So my gut tells me Ayuso and Ribeiro are double stinting their tyres, whereas Gontier, Sheldrake, Roerich, Mosin all took tyres in their stop. But that's not fact, that's just my gut.
No, I would completely agree. I think that is exactly something that explains why Ribeiro's got a 1 minute and 3 second lead. And the thing is, with that lead from Ribeiro, yeah, he may end up losing some of that lead to Gontier. He may hold it around the 1 minute margin. There is still potential that he could grow the race lead. Now his pace has been very consistent. These tyres, on the GT3s, you should really be able to double stint them, especially the hard tyres. It should be pretty possible to get to the end of the race still running some relatively decent speed, and I think that's what Ribeiro's trying to do. If he is able to do that and pull out some even more money, he could genuinely lap the field. That is very much a possibility for him. 41.5 minutes left to go. We look back to the race lead. Cody Latkovsky, and he's got Roche behind. Roche at the moment is knocking at the door still on tyres that seem to be coming back into the window. Of course, they'll both be heading into the pit lane at some point in the next few laps.
Absolutely. Kratashvili, I'm not sure if something's happened. Got the gap down to about 32 seconds and then quite quickly jumped back up to 36. That could just be a timing thing, could be some traffic, or potentially a wee half spin or error from Kratashvili. Not quite sure on that one, and unfortunately won't get the answer till afterwards. Looking, that gap's coming up again. Look, is Kratashvili in the pits? He is in the pits, yep. So that could explain it. So Kratashvili dropping back, final pit stop. Now, if it goes as we expect, Lewis, I don't think he's going to take tyres. I think he's going to risk it, try and gain 30 seconds, and then at least be there or thereabouts with the lead two, who probably will either be on new tyres, or Latkovsky is going to go double stint here and be 30 seconds out in front. That's the kind of different scenarios that we're looking at here. So it'll be very fascinating to see how this plays out. But this does mark the proper start of the leaders making their final stops. So let's just see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, the main one that we're looking at is when one of the top two will venture their way into pit lane. But like you say, Kratashvili coming in really will start the race into pit lane. Roche not coming in this time, so we'll try and keep fairly close to the back end of Cody Latkovsky. We ride on board with Kratashvili in the pit lane, waiting to be released. That Lamborghini you can see ahead of us. If you haven't joined us earlier on in this broadcast, that is Rebella, who is a retirement from this race after an issue leaving pit lane.
So we're into crunch time now. We're 2/3 of the way through this race, just past the 1 hour 20 minute mark, and it's Porsche looking good for a win in hypercar. Of course, there are drivers that are associated with different esports teams in this field, but there are, of course, no team standings here. There's no affiliation between different drivers who are in Porsches, for instance, but it looks like Porsche has the upper hand in terms of pace out here today. You've got Grat in third, ahead of Riedel in fourth, 2 BMWs, but of course, we've seen a pit stop that will shake up the order. Then you have the GT3s, the dominance from BMW. We've got, actually, looking at that, Lewis, we've just seen an issue for our P3 runner, which is, of course, Olesiuk Ayuso. Now, we saw him in the pits a few laps ago. We've just seen him drop back to fourth, but the gap stopped coming down now. So either he's just done a quick drive-through penalty, he's lost around about 20 seconds there, or he's had an issue out on circuit. But either way, it's not great, because I believe he's on old tyres, and he's up against a lot of drivers on brand new tyres. He might even be about to lose P4 here. So let's keep an eye on that one.
I think it might have been a return into pit lane of some description, because there was no yellow flag out at the time, which typically we do see. But you're absolutely right. You'll now have the pressure of Rurik knocking at the door. The two have battled a fair amount, as we see Roche has been round again. Roche has been round once more. So there was a little bit of issue coming there through the lap traffic. Did wonder if there was going to be some form problem. Was trying to keep close to the rear end of Cody Latkovsky. And if it was in doubt before, it certainly isn't now. It is game on for Cody Latkovsky. He's got 38 more minutes to navigate this Interlagos circuit, and realistically, he's in the pound seat now to take a superb victory in the first special event since the launch of this new ranked system on RaceRoom.
Yeah, it was looking good already, but for sure now, Latkovsky's race to lose. Absolutely. And now, we've got to be honest, Roche has lost 7 seconds there. Roche is going to have to take tyres at this stop. Unless he does a triple on mediums, we think that Roche is going to take new tyres because he's been on these tyres since the start, which brings Kratochvili probably ahead of Roche at this pit stop if Kratochvili has double stinted his tyres. So what this does mean is we've got a really exciting battle on for P2. Of course, Latkovsky now, unless he does anything stupid, unless he gets caught out by traffic or a pit lane speeding penalty, for instance, is looking very, very strong indeed. So we'll keep an eye out to see when those guys pull into the pits. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the pressure, the pace that Latkovsky's got, but Roche is driving on the edge, has clearly been driving on the edge all day, and unfortunately has just crossed that line a few too many times.
Yeah, so easy to do, especially after the first spin, then potentially pushing it that little bit hard, that little bit more up against the limit, and trying to keep up with Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who of course is on the fresher tyres comparatively between the two of them, and yeah, maybe a little bit difficult there. You can see some of the other cars navigate their way through. Also, you got to remember, we are an hour and 20 minutes into this race. I am sure that there is some form of fatigue coming in, that things are getting a little bit difficult out there, just even from a you know, keeping your mind in the game. Also, there is Kratochvili working his way through on the GTEs that we're riding on board with. Obviously, we're on board with Senna here. You've got Janssen directly ahead. You've got Gold directly behind. Well, I think your brake markers, things like that, like references are changing here. The sun is setting. Obviously, it will not set over the entirety of this race distance. We only have half an hour left. But as it dips below a lot of the grandstands and trees and some of the undulation around here, is getting dark on the circuit. Your references are changing, and the one thing that I was taught when I started sim racing was never use a shadow as a brake reference. I'm sure some people have.
I was about to say exactly that. Yeah, don't use a shadow as a braking reference because they move, and yeah, it's going to get tricky. And you're so right about fatigue. Just as you were saying that, I mean, we almost saw an incident there on board with the GT3 of Senna, just up ahead. Janssen almost getting into it with a hypercar. He was trying to put a lap. There was a bit of uncertainty there. Both cars ended up running wide, and it's fatigue. It's mental fatigue. You start losing that edge of concentration. And at this level, that's all you need to lose in order for things to go wrong. So everyone's going to have to stay laser focused. I should also say, we've been saying Roche has been spinning and pushing too hard. We haven't necessarily caught the start of those moments, so there is also a chance that there's been incidents there with back markers or other cars. I don't want to just instantly assume that Roche is spinning on his own every single time, but the evidence points towards that car being very on the edge, and it wouldn't surprise me, let's put it that way, if those had been spins under just the stress of the tyre eventually giving in.
So we've got a couple of BMWs here doing battle between Ayuso and Rorik, of course, 4th and 5th position. Alex Mosin's not too far off the rear end of it, about 5 seconds arrears in the Mercedes, but it is an all BMW 1 through 5. Firing through the middle of all this, the bright yellow, very distinctive 963, of course, of Cody Nikola Latkovsky flying through this group. Once again, highlighting the pace difference between the hypercar category and the GT3s. For now, for him, it's a cruise to the checkered flag. For everyone else out there, with the exception of maybe Ribeiro, the cruise certainly has not begun yet. This is going to be a difficult challenge to get to the checkered flag.
Absolutely. As we see there, Fernholt's also pitting in the Lamborghini, so we'll see where he comes out. We saw Gra on the last lap pitting, but has got out ahead of Riedel by the looks of it, so that's a change, or not change of position, but maintaining of position on track there. There's Fernholt's, in fact, that's not Fernholt's, that is Roche in the pit lane, in the Porsche, so that's our P2 runner. Let's see what happens now versus Kratochvili, who is in 3rd place. That's the gap we need to pay attention to see if the German can stay ahead of the Czech driver. But yeah, Ribeiro, I mean, he's got a 1.3-second lead in GT3. It's looking good. He didn't take tyres, we think, which means the gap's much bigger, but it does mean that he's going to have to manage the car a little more and watch out. I'm a bit surprised that he didn't take tyres. I thought with an advantage like that, you do take tyres, because then you're just kind of reaffirming your grip for the rest of the race. But he wants to try and win by the largest margin. It makes complete sense. So let's just see how long this stop then takes for Roche. As we say, we expect new tyres. There's another spin for the Ferrari. We just saw it in the corner of our screen there for Hummer losing the back end. And that's a close call as well between the Mercedes of Mosin and the charging Kratochvili, who's coming through in the 963. Through the final corner, Roche is still stationary. I think this could be what we expected, Lewis, which is a very, very close battle coming out of the pits. And if the gaps are what we expect, I think Kratochvili here will go ahead by around about 5 to 10 seconds from Roche. But Roche is going to be on new tyres. It's going to be so, so close. He's now finally leaving the pit box. But I think we're going to be about right.
Yeah, it is going to be very tight, so we work our way through on the inside. You'll see there, just being passed, Roche is leaving the pit lane now, already coming through. Kretashvili is able to take over second position. And this is the thing, if Cody Nikolakowski also changes tyres, then Kretashvili will be in the hunt for race victory. Maybe it's not going to be there or thereabouts, but he is in the hunt for it. But if Cody Nikolakowski goes, okay, do you know what, I will be taking these tyres to the end of the race, then he could have a 25 to 30 second lead on what would be a very aggressive and very driven Kretashvili and Roche.
Yeah, Latkovsky, remember, was super fast in that first stint. He was faster than Roche on mediums. That tells me that if you're pitting now, you're taking softs, right? So I think Roche is going to be on new soft tyres. Kretashvili, despite his pace, is up against the pole sitter on new soft, and he's on stint old mediums. So let's be honest, unless something happens, Roche is probably going to get P2 here from Kretashvili. Latkovsky, on the other hand, you know, he's got it in the bag, but he's only going to be one mistake away from that battle. And it doesn't matter which of the two behind him is the person who's closest. He is still only going to have, you know, a margin of one mistake's worth, let's say. Either a big gap but the wrong tyres, or a small gap in the right tyres. It's going to be one of the two. So it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out. You can see there, Kretashvili is actually on softs. So I think Lewis, he's double stinting softs for this stint, based on that. So that's great, very impressive to see, but I do wonder how that'll affect things. In fact, there is Latkovsky coming into the pits now, so this is going to be key, Lewis. Let's see where he comes out. How big is the gap? And from that, we can have a guess on tyres, because, I mean, I thought Kretashvili was on double stinted mediums, and it seems like he's on softs, so what do I know?
What would you do if you were Cody Nikolakowski here? Would you change tyres, or would you keep on going?
I would, I think, for the sake of the race, stick to the mediums and double stint. We know I just maybe not criticised Ribeiro, but said I wouldn't do that from Ribeiro's position. This is a different situation. I would rather be 30 to 35 seconds out in front and be on a second stint medium, rather than taking the new tyres and only having a gap of 5 or 6 seconds. And I think that's exactly what Latkovsky's going to do. He's going to pull out the pit. So this is now Latkovsky going for that strategy. I think it's ultimately faster. It's more likely to win the race. But he will have the stress, of course, of that gap coming down and coming down and coming down, especially with Roche. But it's such a big gap now, Lewis. It's as we say, Latkovsky's race to lose with all those mistakes.
Yeah, this is the thing. Is that the one thing this strategy does not afford you is a mistake. If you have a mistake and you lose that 40-odd second through a mistake or two, you will not be able to get that time back, pretty much. Like that will be it. It'll be done. Your chances of winning this race would be over. If you were to change tyres, there is the potential where if you were to have a mistake, you would have the opportunity to come back from it. But that's part of the gamble. You're absolutely right. Kretashvili's going to be will most likely be closing in over this stint. Will most likely be dragging that gap back down to the Macedonia Racing. Thing is, he's only got half an hour to close down 40 seconds, and he's also got to battle with Roche, who is, you know, focused here. In all likelihood, it's not going to be coming down. What would it need to be is about 1.6 seconds a lap, every single lap from here until the end of the race. Unlikely whilst you're battling, as here comes a look to the inside, coming up towards Ferradura. Roche was having a look, was filling the mirrors of Kretashvili and could not go through. But I get the feeling that he's the faster of the two right now on those fresher tyres.
Absolutely. Sitting Zuck at the moment is Kretashvili, which we thought would be the case. So, you know, he's not a threat to Latkovsky at this stage. It's Roche really that's the true threat. And it's just a case of how quickly does that gap come down. What is the difference between new softs and second stint mediums? I mean, 1.6 seconds, Lewis, is not a massive margin, especially when you're talking about not only a difference in tyre life, but tyre compound as well. Oh, that's a big bit of contact there. Sparks fly underneath the 963, but it's Roche who makes the move. I don't think Kretashvili's going to have anything to fight with here. He might have a slipstream, might have straight line speed, but under braking, Roche is going to have the confidence in the performance. So unless he goes for something wild, this move's probably said and done. And it's just a case of whether or not Roche can use that unbelievable qualifying pace that we've seen to close that gap on Latkovsky. And yes, as we see, Kretashvili, nothing to fight with, is going to have to just sit there, hang on to third. He's got an 8-second gap over Grat at the moment, who's also on second stint tyres based on the gaps. So looking good. We have a yellow flag, meanwhile, in Sector 3. So I'm keeping an eye out to see if we know who that was, but it's gone away. So hopefully just a small spin for someone.
You say 1.6 seconds. I mean, it's definitely possible to close 1.6 seconds, 1.7 seconds a lap on a single lap, to go that much faster on fresher tyres and a compound softer. That is possible. However, it is not 1.6 seconds on one lap, not 1.6 seconds on 2 or 3. It is 1.6 seconds on every single lap from here to the end of the race. Anytime that you don't get that 1.6 seconds, you need to find that extra over the next few laps as well. And they've just had a battle, losing another couple of seconds, which is now a couple of seconds more that they need to find. Percentage-wise, it is unlikely that gap will be closed down, but never say never. Meanwhile, we fight to keep the eye on the battle here between Roic and Ayuso, which has been a great fight over the past few laps. And again, Mosin's not a million miles behind. We did also have the slide and the half spin, I believe, from Rydell, who caused the last yellow flag around this circuit. He's dropping back into the clutches of the Lamborghini of Traxion, so you get the feeling that there's going to be a fight there for that final spot inside the top 5. Did notice as well, Humor has also retired from the race. Did notice he dropped a message in our YouTube chat, of course, saying that he's done with the Ferrari. I think he's had enough. It's caused him quite a few issues today.
Absolutely, yeah. Shout out to everyone who is watching along, all of you listening. Hopefully you're enjoying this race. We've had some great comments coming in on the YouTube streams, both on the Traxion and the RaceRoom channel. Shout out to Thierry, who's been keeping a close eye on strategy. Oscar Piastri Endurance also in the chat. Not sure it's actually Oscar Piastri, but what does it matter?
We'll hope
you're the best Oscar Piastri because you're watching this race. Lewis Gilbert's here as well. Rob, fan, Psychos, lots of support in the chat, so it's great to see. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying this race. And you know, despite being an hour and a half in, Lewis, you know, as we say, we've got battles all throughout the field, all the way through. It's still not said and done at the top of each class. I mean, I say that. It's definitely said and done at the top of GT3 unless there's a big moment for Ribeiro. But what I mean is there's still positions to be settled all the way through. And we have seen great action throughout. We're about to see another battle here with Roic and the charging Ayuso, who I thought would drop back from this battle, assuming he was on older tyres and had a drive-through as well. But has actually stayed really, really close here and was certainly trying to get the move done, as we saw coming out of the last corner on the previous lap. So great stuff. That gap from Latkovsky to Roche, by the way, it's come down 3 seconds since I last looked. And I know I'm not, don't get me wrong, this race is 95% done for Latkovsky if he doesn't make a mistake. But you never know.
Okay, so that gap coming down 3 or so seconds, you'd think, oh, that's great since the last time we checked it. Maybe it is on. Even it coming down 3 seconds in that time that we were talking there, that isn't enough. That is how much time Roche needs to be closing in on Latkovsky. Is that 3 seconds, because it took him two laps to get that 3 seconds. That was the last time we checked, and now, and like I said, if it's 3 seconds every couple of laps, so that's 1.5 seconds lap. That's less than 1.6, and it needs to be realistically, it needs to be close to 2 seconds a lap if you're going to get a proper opportunity to pass. Even closing down that margin at that speed, it's still not enough. And that's one of those ones where it's just so frustrating because there's just nothing really you can do apart from use the time machine like Doctor Who would and maybe not spin round.
Yeah, that's always great in hindsight, isn't it? Don't spin, don't end up on your roof on the pit lane entry. You know, there's so many what could have been in motorsport as Roche fires down the inside. You're absolutely right, by the way. I can't emphasize that enough. You know, when you do an endurance race and you're trying to close down a gap like that, you may on one lap be able to do it, but it's that relentless consistency. And if you lose 1 or 2 seconds at some point, as you said earlier, you've then got to get that time back. So then you've got to get 2 seconds, then it's 2.2 a lap. And of course, realistically, it's not going to happen unless something else goes on with Latkovsky. But you've just got to stay there and stay close. And for the sake of the excitement, let's just keep a toe in the door. But yeah, I mean, realistically, it's not going to happen, is it? Gra is 8 seconds back on Kratashvili, and I don't think has the pace in that battle, but we will, of course, keep you on top of that as well. Riedel's dropped further back than he was before, if that timing screen is correct, so a little bit of an extended gap. So it looks like the top 5 at the moment, Lewis. I would say at this point, if I was putting money on it, I would stick with this top 5. I think this is how they're going to finish. But I would also put money on the fact that something will happen to one of the members of the top 5, whether it's a spin, whether it's traffic, whether it's an issue with tires or whatever it is. I equally think there's a chance that something goes wrong for one of them.
The only thing that might change is this battle that we were about to see here. This is the final spot inside the top 5 in the hypercar category. You've got Rydell directly ahead in that BMW. We ride on board with Traxion in the Lamborghini, of course. So we'll see if the Hungarian's able to close back in. That gap was under a second. It's now grown to over a second. And I do think the Rydell's got the pace, but he did have a little bit of a mistake earlier on. I will say on the whole gaps closing and shrinking stuff, I guess one of the best bits about endurance racing is that sometimes you see them slowly close their way in. That's that build up, that anticipation stuff. Honestly, that was slight change on topic. That was my #1 pet peeve with the F1 movie. Well, not #1. There was a few pet peeves, but it was he gets in the car. There's 7 minutes. That he's behind the wheel of the car, and there was 3 minutes he was behind the wheel of the car, and he went from 7th place to 1st, like 8 hours into the 24 hours Daytona. Absolute rubbish.
Yeah, the other drivers.
Yeah, apparently so.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, it looked good. It sounded, that intro it got the blood going. That intro did. I didn't expect it as well going into the film. Didn't realize we were gonna get some sports car representation, but that was cool to see. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. But you know, hey Lewis, let's make it more exciting here. If Brad Pitt can do it, Roche can do it.
Oof, I don't know if that was a sentence that I'd want to be involved in if I was Roche. If Brad Pitt can do it, you can do it. Like, oh my goodness! All right, sorry, my good sir. Let me give that one a go. Either way, there's your race leader, Cody Nikolakowski, who's got 21.5 minutes ready to head round the circuit to seal a victory. Should be 13 or so laps, 14 laps. To be fair, they are quite short around here, aren't they? You fly past the laps. That's what some people really like about Interlagos, is how the laps just keep going by and by and by and by and by. It's so fast, as Tarrant has gone for a bit of a spin further down in the GT3 category.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think of Interlagos as a circuit to drive, Lewis? Obviously, it's fun to commentate on, in my personal opinion. I'm sure you would agree, just because of how good the racing is at Interlagos. I really do think there are lots of overtaking opportunities and exciting moments that can be had. But do you enjoy driving around here? Is it one of your favorites, or are you kind of, where was your mind at? Oh, actually, that was close between the two BMWs, Hypercar and GT3. I'm not sure. Was that? I'm not sure who that is actually. I'm trying to think of which livery that is.
Yeah, it's one of the ones just further down in the top 10 of the GT3s is what we're looking at in the GT3 fight, I believe.
Gold.
It might have been, yeah, certainly. So gold with Janssen directly behind. My thoughts on this circuit. As a driver, maybe it is controversial. I don't like it that much. I don't hate it. I'm very indifferent to driving around it. I think it's fine.
Yeah, honestly, I could not agree with you more, because that's exactly where I'm at with it. I love watching races around here.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fun. I think some corners in particular are epic, but at the same time, it doesn't really, get I was saying earlier, the blood going in the way that some other circuits do in Interlagos. I don't know what it is about it. I actually like the way the curbs have been updated recently, and it's cool to drive. But I'm exactly the same as you, somewhere in the middle of the road. And remember, if you want to drive a middle of the road Brazilian circuit that's apparently better to watch than drive, you can also purchase it on RaceRoom and give it a go yourself. So hopefully I'm selling it well.
I was going to say, kind of a damning review followed by, anyway, if you want to drive it.
If you want to drive something in the middle, as we see another hypercar dive down the inside of the BMW.
Spot on. But no, you're absolutely right. Also, there's plenty of other circuits that might be more enjoyable to drive on RaceRoom, depending on where you go. You can jump on, do the Nordschleife. That's always right up there for some people. Bathurst is on there as well. That's right up there for other much cooler people like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Just while we're talking about content as well, RaceRoom did launch an incredible pack to basically celebrate the start of the new ranked system, which has incredible value. 12 cars, 27 tracks. You can purchase it in one bundle. And it was really not expensive for what it was. I think it was around $30, 30 euros, 25 pounds, something like that. And it's got a 1995 Opel Calibra DTM car. It's got a Volvo Super Tourer, the S40, the Rickard Rydell car. It's got the MX-5 Cup, a 992 Porsche. That also included Interlagos, just saying, but it also included Salzburg Ring, the scene of one of my roles, and Mount Panorama that Lewis has just mentioned, as well as the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So a really incredible pack. That's just scratching the surface. very, very good value, 92% discount based on how much it would cost if you bought them all individually. So I just wanted to say, if you are watching this race and you're enjoying it and you want to give Race Room a try, and I'm not a Race Room salesperson, I'm completely neutral and I love all racing games equally, or I give them at least a fair shot equally. But what I would say is Race Room's free to enter. You can buy a pack like that for not very much money, and you can get out there and take part in so many different ranked races. You can basically start your Race Room journey, and you too could be involved in a race like this, because I'm sure within that pack you get Interlagos. I'm sure there's a hypercar or a GT3 in there somewhere, so you could also be taking part in this race. So yeah, just have a look into it.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I've done my fair share of racing on Race Room, and I will say it's either if you're brand new to the world of sim racing, I think Race Room's a great place to jump on. Also, if from around the world of sim racing, not just any platform in particular, but just generally, if you are bored of the sweat lords that are ridiculous in every lobby that you join, there's plenty on here, but it's I always find it's a lot more relaxed, it's a lot more tame, but still the same level of like focus and precision required. So no, all for it, as we see a couple of battles again in that battle between Gold. Obviously we've got the couple of them, I think it's a three-way fight, isn't this, for about 8th position.
Yeah, it's, as we said, the racing continues. You've got Janssen at the back there, Senna at the front, and Gold in silver at the moment. You've got the one of the BMWs making their way through, there's constant action, as you can see. Hypercars making their way through GT3s. You just get so used to it and it's very normalized, but it's constant stress and pressure for these guys looking in their mirrors, making sure they're doing nothing wrong. You do eventually begin, of course, Lewis, to recognize the flow of the cars around you. You get used to the speed and who's coming through and whether they're aggressive, whether they're a bit polite, whether they go outside, inside. You get into a rhythm with it, but it's so easy to be caught out at one moment and just lose a bit of concentration, especially when you're in a three-way scrap for position. And it's very easy to miss a hypercar coming through, as you see Lakovsky in the background as well. But yeah, Senna, Gold, Janssen all fighting. Senna, it's been a frustrating race for Senna, I would say. He started off up in the lofty heights of the top three, and then it's kind of slowly dropped back throughout the race. Been a bit unlucky as well, made a few mistakes potentially, but also just got involved in a few bits and pieces. But still, hanging on to a decent position here, and I'm sure having a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Janssen was ahead of Senna earlier, dropped back, and Gold has sort of been in amongst this throughout the whole race. So I'm sure these guys are having a great time. You can now see, I believe that was the Race Room rankings appearing on the screen. Yeah, you've got there. I think, is that the safety ranking percentage? I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe that's the what someone's safety ranking is for how consistent and safe they are on circuit and how few incidents they have during a race. And we also saw briefly the kind of speed-based ranking as well, which is how the splits are set nowadays, Lewis, on Race Room. So if you sign up to this race, there are multiple splits, and depending on your driver ranking, your result-based driver rank, which gives you a number, you will be placed against other people of a similar ability level, which is why we've got so many fantastic drivers in this top split race, but also so many fantastic drivers in lower splits racing at exactly the same time right now.
Yeah, and the important thing with that is, like I say, it's not. I think sim racing has this danger where quite a lot of the time it becomes quite elitist, and it's only the top lot that get to have the big fun races and do the big stuff. Whereas I think it's important to have lots of splits so that everyone can take part in this race up and down the order, and I think that's very entertaining indeed, and very important, because otherwise I would never get to race anyone. Also, but it's important because then you don't, if you're new to sim racing, you don't come across a Cody Nicola Latkovsky or a Tomasz Ribeiro in your opening couple of races, where you almost certainly have absolutely no chance of beating them, which just isn't fun.
Yeah, and for 95% of us or 99% of us never have a chance of beating them. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And you can see there, so just to point this out, GT3, we talk about how dominant Ribeiro's been, as we do see a move on screen now that's Gold on Senna, so we'll keep an eye on that. But you can see Ribeiro's rating 2,326, clearly a step ahead of everyone else. Now, everyone's got a higher rating to be in this top split, but Ribeiro has about 300 points above everyone else, and he's demonstrated why that is in this race, Lewis. Absolutely incredible stuff, and even extending the gap since not taking tyres at that pit stop. Meanwhile, Roche has the highest of the top 5 in hypercar and was the pole sitter and probably was the fastest if it wasn't for those 2 spins.
Ooh.
Very similar to Latkovsky. That is getting exciting, isn't it, on screen as we see the BMWs, the BMW bread and a Porsche sandwich. The Porsche gets through, and in terms of positions, Gold has made the move on Senna. Senna now looking to the inside again, is gonna just about sneak a nose down the inside, but Gold can cover it. Dives to the inside, Senna late on the brakes, almost contacting the braking zone, but they managed to get away with it. Jansen's gonna be rubbing his hands together and getting very excited for this because he could see 2 positions coming his way very shortly. But for the moment, that's the move done from Gold.
I think that Porsche going through the middle of all of that, by the way, was Roche, which is probably not where he wanted to be. In any of that, and like I say, getting a little bit awkward, causing some of the changes there in this battle in the GT3 category. We also have Xiaochan not too far out. Deep goes Gold. Senna might go for a move here into the opening corner. Jansen again rubbing those hands together, closing up once again to all of this. The battle gets closer, 12 minutes left to go. The battle for 8th position at present. Gold not feeling the need to take a defensive line here at the opening corner, and then it's going to go for the move down the inside.
I did not expect him to get that stopped and make the curb. It looked like it wasn't going to happen, but he did it. Great stuff from Senna, who gets back up into the P8 he held so valiantly earlier. Gold making the advantage, around the traffic on the last lap. Senna straight back down the inside. I don't know if Gold expected him to do that on the brakes, but that was mighty impressive to get it stopped, use the curb. Brilliant stuff. And also, just to point out one other thing to keep an eye on, Kratos really seems to be struggling with tyres or something, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is a double stint on soft, because Gra is only 3 seconds behind. Remember when I said that the top 5 were, relatively nailed on, or at least the top 4? Well, that could still be about to change.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Rydell's been able to pull out from Xiaochan in the BMW, so that one isn't insanely close. So at least there is that to deal with. As I believe this might be Xiaochan on the rear end of Jansen trying to work their way through. It's just about finding that right space. In fact, I wasn't sure. I think it might have been, like I said, it might have been Roche that was coming through, because I know Roche and Gaspar Mich are both in the same liveried 993. I think either way, whichever one has gone through, the other one is now going through in this group. So we'll have to wait and see as to which one it was. But alas, they are finding their way through now. Goes the Porsche to the inside.
Absolutely. 10 minutes to go in this one, just over 10 minutes. Now we see Arthur Gra, who is closing that gap on Kratosvili. Assuming that Kratosvili didn't make a mistake that we missed, I just think the gap's been, or Kratosvili's been dropping back from the lead too, as Roche continues to, of course, drive forward towards Latkovsky. Just to check up on that, Roche has closed the gap by about 7 seconds, but nowhere near enough. Even at this point, Lewis, I think Latkovsky could have a spin and still feel like he was in the driving seat. So it's been great. You can't take that away from him at all. Graz also had a great race, looking to be the top non-Porsche in this one and potentially even sneak a podium. Arthur Gra, one of a handful of people, including Yuri Kratosvili ahead, who were very helpful chatting with me earlier, telling me a little bit about some of their strategies and giving me an insight into the race. So big shout out to those guys for the support, and of course, just a big shout out to everyone who's taking part in this first special event with the new ranked race room system. And so far, it has to be said, and I don't want to curse it with 10 minutes to go, the race has been good, it's been stable, it's been working. I can't believe I'm putting the risk of the curse there, but it looks like we might get 2 hours in, Lewis, which is good.
I thought you were just saying, yeah, it's good, it's entertaining, and no, I agree on that one. Start talking about server stability, goodness.
Yeah, I instantly regretted it.
Let me give you some good news here. The commentator's curse doesn't exist, so it's fine. And anyone that says it does, they're lying. Again, hill I'll die on the world of sim racing and motorsport. Why not? Anytime someone tells me, I crashed because of the commentator's curse, total rubbish. You're always going to crash. It's not my fault that you couldn't keep it on the road, or someone on the road.
It's not like footballers blaming a referee where it actually has an influence on the race.
Yeah.
We've got no influence on the race.
If you're listening to the commentary and that's made you make a mistake, that is your fault. And if you believe in the commentator's curse, stop blaming other people for your problems. Anyway, sorry. Just real thing that really sets me off. I know there's a few commentators, including, if you've ever joined us on special events before here on RaceRoom, one of our other commentators, Cameron Roger, he likes to sometimes just push the buttons, and he'll bring up things like the commentator's curse, even though he doesn't believe in it, just to try and set me off.
I was going to say, do you mean push your buttons or just push buttons broadcast-wise? But then I quickly realised, yeah, push your buttons.
He means mine. I mean mine.
Your buttons are very pushable.
Very much, apparently. I don't know how to control it. Well, I do know. I don't really know how to do it either. But commentate on a battle. In the moment, Kratosvili, having Gra right over the rim, the gap has completely disappeared, and we might not get that Porsche lockout on the podium.
Absolutely. I think at this point, Gra's looking probably the more likely to take P3 here from Yuri, who is, I do think, struggling on potentially 2 stint old softs. And Gra will be looking to make the most of that. It's only 1.5 seconds between them. You can see Curtis really down to the inside, trying to break the slipstream, try and shorten that run. We've seen a few drivers do that as their natural line. I keep thinking they're about to peel into the pits because they're doing it as they come up on Janssen and the BMW, but they're both going to get it done before the start of the S's. And no, Kratos really struggling under brakes. There's contact between the two. Gra made it down the inside, perfectly plausible. And Kratos really did not want to give that one up, but eventually just had to succumb to it. There was a bit of probably unnecessary contact, but no harm done. And it looks like that's going to be it. Gra's up to P3, didn't even require too much. Though I was saying that, there's more contact as we run now down through turn 4, back up the hill towards Ferradura, very close with the back marker in the GT3 being lapped. There's obviously another BMW to get through. This is, of course, Senna and Gold, who are still fighting it. So there's battles all the way going through here. Great to get a little update on that in the background. But for the meantime, it's Gra who does still have the advantage, and I think that might be it now, Lewis.
I was a little too aggressive from Arthur Gra there, trying to get past the M4, but you can kind of understand it because Kotosvili was putting on the pressure, was turning it up as soon as he loses that position, keeping on that rear end, trying to force them through the traffic, and Arthur Gra felt that his hand was forced slightly, making contact with the back markers with the GT3s, and alas, is through now. 6 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in the race. I would have to agree with you. That gap's already over a second. I do think that Arthur Gra in the BMW is going to be able to pull out a margin here and be able to take 3rd position all the way to the checkered flag. Back to the fight then between Senna and Gold. Gold, of course, receiving a bit of a wake-up call then from Gra coming through. And now looks to the outside going into the Senna S to try and get past. Cannot make the move there into the opening complex of corners, but time is running out. Realistically for them, they've only got about 4 laps left of this race.
I think Gold's got the pace here, Lewis. That also reiterates how good a job it was from Senna to get back down the inside into turn 1, because if he didn't get that move done then, Gold just managed to break away. I think he would have been gone here based on the fact he's able to stay so close. So just more credit to Senna for hauling that position back. So often you don't see that happen once the position has changed hands. Janssen trying his best to hang on to the back, but just can't quite stay with these two. We'll kind of be relying on some incidents now to try and regain that position. But it looks like a two-way scrap here. Gold looking racy all over the back. They're of course in the same car. They'll have the same strengths and weaknesses in different corners unless there's big setup parity between the two of them. But I think this race is going to go all the way to the checkered flag here for P8.
Yep, might take that final drag race up to the line from Gold to find a way through, but I get the feeling that would actually be too late. I don't think you would see a position switch on the race towards the line unless you get in maybe a double slipstream from maybe some hypercar working their way through in the final moments to maybe open up the opportunity to come through on that one. At the moment though, for Gold, sat behind Senna, time ticking away, not long left to go in this race, not long left to find a way through, not many opportunities left in this race. Janssen's a little too far arrears of this battle to be any part of it, but if there is any issue between these two, you would have to say 8th position will almost certainly go the way of the Swede, sat presently in 10th position.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to call out as well, I don't know if we've had an issue for Shachan down in P8 in the Lamborghini, but I do think he was up ahead of Locke and around about where Fernholz was, so not sure if there was an issue there for the Lamborghini, but just wanted to flag that one as we see these battling Beamers continue their fight, and it's been going on now for quite some time. It's really wide over the curbs and probably over track limits there for Gold. At this point, not sure if these drivers have many warnings left, but the thing about Race Room is if you've saved them up until this point, if you've been clean, if you've been good, you stay inside the white lines, you do have a few little bits of wiggle room to play with in terms of track limits. So potentially that's the case with Gold. We haven't obviously seen any big penalties that we know of anyway for track limits, but you never know. Pushing
track limits far past them, much like Oh, you almost look like a THR driver then. That's fine. Just really abusing track limits. THR, of course,
say
the
nothing.
team that John used to drive for, along with quite a lot of teams in the big world of sim racing back then. That's fine.
I got around.
Yeah, Precision, THR, Ice Cold,
MTR.
yeah. I'm pretty
Airstream.
sure of all of those teams, only one of them still exists. I wonder if you know which one.
And there's one common denominator.
Yeah, you've driven for all of them. Oh, and Zanko, yeah, no, that one's...
Ice Cold still exists.
Ice Cold does still exist. I think THR still sort of does, but...
That's a pub quiz question in the future that not many people will get, but me and Lewis will be on it.
I remember doing a quiz with you, and we had basically we got loads of photographs, loads of racetracks. John was brutally fast. I only got one over you, and I still remember which circuit it was as well.
Hey, I still remember your Christmas jumper that night.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that the Star Wars one?
I can't remember. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Either way, we've got a couple of minutes left to go on the race. We'll keep it on topic, don't worry, ladies and gents. We'll keep our eyes focused on this race because, again, it still remains close in the battle for 8th position. It is still centre ahead of Gold, and it is still Janssen now closing in, reeling them in, potentially to have a 3-way fight for 8th position with just a minute 50 left to go. Not sure where Latkovsky is on the circuit, but obviously they are going to get at least one more lap in this race. Technically, they could get 2.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. And of course, that is important because you tend to drive and fill your car up with fuel to the lap you expect to finish on. So normally, if you're sensible and maybe not quite as elite as some drivers, like me, you end up having, I don't mean I'm elite, I mean I'm not as elite, you end up putting in a couple of laps extra just to make sure you get to the end. But of course, if the race does go on a lap longer than expected, you will see some drivers potentially coming to problems there on that last lap. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But at the moment, with Latkovsky coming through turn 2, it's going to be pretty touch and go. I think it's very close, Lewis, to be honest. I think this is around about... He's going to be coming near the line around about 0 seconds, so we'll just have to pay attention. But it might well be the final lap. And if it's not, he could slow down a little bit and just make sure it is the final lap. But I think he's got everything under control at the moment.
Takes them about 1 minute and 20 seconds to get around this circuit in the hypercars category. Slightly slower than that, maybe about 1 minute 23 at this point in the race. I believe with the time that he crossed the line, might have only had about 1 minute and 18 seconds, which means that this will most likely be the final lap of the race. And what a race it's been, what an exciting race it has been, what a dominant performance it's been from at least our race winner in the GT3 category. Less dominant from Cody Latkovsky, mostly courtesy of the fight between himself and Roche. But a couple of mistakes from Roche, right place, right time, and Cody Latkovsky has picked up the pieces. He led almost the entirety of the opening stint of the race after qualifying in second spot, dropped back down into second over the second stint, and now come through the final corner to absolutely dominate here at Interlagos. The 2 hours of Interlagos here on RaceRoom goes the way of the Macedonian. Cody Latkovsky across the line first. 30 seconds the wait behind to see Roche across the line after a great drive, still a good drive into second position. Gra with an excellent recovery up into third to stop the Porsche dominance. And whereabouts on the circuit is our GT3 leader Ribeiro, who has been absolutely dominant in that GT3 category, completely unmatched from Gontier and from Shildrake. He'll work his way into the final complex of corners now after a superb drive. Our RaceRoom Super Touring champion this year. He'll work his way up the hill out of Junkau, now across to the start-finish line to completely dominate that GT3 category. He has been class of the field by a very, very long way. Ribeiro, the Portuguese driver, across the line to win. Superb drive from both of our winners here, John.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff. I mean, Ribeiro in particular, completely and utterly dominant and showing that he can do it no matter the car, no matter the category. We're going to have quite a long wait for Gontier, who, to be fair, has done a great job as well in P2. A long way ahead of Shildrake, Roric, who rounded out your top 4, and there are some of the results further down the field. But yeah, as you say, Lewis, fantastic stuff from both classes. A special shout out as well to Latkovsky for winning Hypercar, because not only did he win the race, he of course also kept his rival in the race by pushing him off the curb earlier on, which was great sportsmanship. Did it for the fun of it. Love to see that. So, and I didn't make any mistakes, unlike his rival. So, thoroughly deserving of the victory, and also a very exciting performance by the driver who finished in 4th as well. Just because Kratoshvili was so fast, made mistakes, but gave us excitement throughout the whole race. So, some standout performances for sure.
There's a look at your podiums from each of the categories. Latkovsky in the bright yellow. You had Roche there. You had Kratoshvili. Also, we've got Ribeiro, Gontier, and of course Shildrake as well. Superb performances. The trio of BMWs locking out 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in GT3s. In fact, it would be a BMW 1st through 5th in the GT3 category, and of course in the hypercars, slightly more leaning towards the Porsches, but only a 1-2 for them. Great race, great opening event here, of course, from our new ranking system, of course, here on RaceRoom, and a great start to that, and a great special event indeed.
Absolutely. I mean, it rounds off the first month of action here on RaceRoom's updated ranking system with a flourish. I mean, great stuff. Really good to watch. The battling was great. There was contact every so often a little bit, as you would inevitably see, but generally speaking, the quality of racing was very high. The pace was really strong, and the thing I loved about that race is we didn't really know which way it was going until the last 15-20 minutes, just because the strategies were so open. Lots of options on tires, different options on when you would come in as well, and multi-class racing is always exciting. So sprinkle a little bit of lap traffic into the mix, and you had what was a phenomenal race.
Again, always one of those ones to keep a very close eye here on RaceRoom for more special events, because we do so many across the year. Certainly one to keep an eye on. And with a new ranking system, there has never been a better time to jump onto RaceRoom than right now.
You're absolutely right. RaceRoom has been chipping away, adding things to their game, adding updates. The ranking system did come in a few years ago and was strong, but the UI wasn't as clear as it could have been, and it felt like it was the start of something, but definitely not where it wanted to be. This new iteration is such a big step up, and I think that's showing in the number of people that are playing the game, the great racing I've had on the ranked system, and of course being a free to enter platform where you can get certain amounts of content for free, and you can also purchase bundles which make it a lot more accessible. You can, for a very low amount of money and a low amount of effort, you can be on the grid in a ranked race against people of a similar level, and it's very quick, it's very sharp. There's lots of different combos. So as you pointed out earlier, Lewis, if you're sort of new to sim racing, it is a fantastic place to start. But clearly, if you're very experienced and very fast, you can still get into events like this and have a blast against other folk that are just as experienced. So it covers the whole range.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, if you do want to get involved, head over onto Steam, download it for free, get yourself involved in all of the action here on RaceRoom. There's so much still to come. There'll be plenty more special events as well across 2026, and of course, getting involved with all the ranks. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's been here on RaceRoom, whether it's been over on the Traxion YouTube channel as well. Thank you to Traxion for joining us here for this broadcast. Thank you to yourself, John. It's been myself, Lewis McGlade. It's been John Monroe bringing you the 2 hours of Interlagos, which has been a fantastic race, of course, absolutely dominated by Latkovsky and Ribeiro. We'll see you in the near future for the next one.